my mindset and unleashed the mom guilt by accepting 3 truths. The first, there is no perfect mom. There is no one perfect way to parent. However, there are a million ways to be a good mom. The little things. When your children want your attention, give it to them. Put your phone down. The second truth was that comparison is a thief of joy. So stop comparing yourself. Take that time to take all of that wisdom that you have gained and share it with a new mom. Tell her all of the lessons that you have learned. There is no need to compare. Lastly, our children, they treasure special moments, not things. Our children are not going to remember something we bought them, but they are going to remember the special times. As busy, working moms, we get so caught up in our schedules and our chia green smoothies and our upcoming conference calls, but we need to take the time to just be. In the car, on the way to work, sing songs. At night, when you're cooking dinner, ask your children about their day.
Oh, it's the little things. It's the little things that count and that go a long, long way. Tiffany Stallings, an American educator and author, starting us off on the open line this morning, or on the talking point. My name is Cathy Mohlahlana. I'll be with you until midday as we lead conversations that move us 10 after 9 o'clock. She says, free yourself from the burden of expectation of perfection. Stop expecting to be perfect. I think so many moms need to hear that, right? Oh my gosh, so many parents need to hear that it's okay to not be perfect. Because we can put so much pressure on ourselves just to get it right and to give our children the dream. Who came up with the dream? Who decided that that dream is the one worth pursuing? And so it brings with it just so much pressure. And I love that she's saying nobody is perfect at parenting. We all have to find our own way of doing it, and a way that sort of fits for us, for our families, for our kids. But don't get lost in the big things. Pay attention to the small things, because that is what will count the most at the end of the day. Well, we'll start off the show with the open line. I'll be taking your calls on 086 000 2032. That's 086 000 2032. On the WhatsApp voice note line 0614 104 107. One gets the sense that there is some angst in different parts of the country around this taxi-related violence, or even violence that is meted out against drivers, against motorists, against e-hailing drivers by taxi operators, by taxi marshals, or those linked to the taxi industry. And certainly it seems that there is more and more pressure being put on motorists, on e-hailing drivers, to fall in line effectively by the industry, that people must act and do as they are saying. Otherwise, there will be very, very severe consequences from that. I'd love to hear from you on that issue. Some of our listeners were raising it on the open line yesterday, but of course we were also then dealing with the issue around the licensing. And what I want to know is really a sense of what is happening in different communities where this is concerned. Because the impression that one gets is that they're almost these I don't want to say isolated, but these very targeted incidents that are taking place. And as we have the national conversation, perhaps we're not fully aware of just the full extent to which this is taking place at an individualized community level. So I would really want you to come on air and share some of the recent experiences that you may have had in this regard. Excuse me, some of the recent incidences that you may have had in this regard so that we're actually able to paint a picture of what is happening. I don't just want the people that are lamenting the violence, that are calling on the government to do something about it. I want people who have had actual experiences in the last month with either taxi operators, marshals, these, security cars that often would be positioned along different routes, who have approached you. And what is it that they have said? Have you been threatened? In what ways have you been threatened? How far did it go? So that we're really fully able to open our eyes to the extent of the issue that we're dealing with. It is a Tuesday, so coming up in the second hour of the show, we're going to be talking finance with Brian Hirsch. He's going to be joining me in studio. And then we're going to be highlighting in particular key insights about women and their role in finance. That's what we'll be paying attention to. And then the final hour of the show, we're in conversation with Professor Phumela Msweli, who is the Executive Dean and CEO at the UNISA Graduate School of Business Leadership. Professor Msweli has just released a book, and it's around intra-Africa trade. One of the key questions she's asking in this book is whether agreement can help to unleash Africa's development potential, and we'll be then getting into that with her in the we'll be getting into that story with her in the final hour of the show. And I guess we'll naturally bring in the Africa Free Trade Agreement and find out what role she believes it can play in fostering and building greater trade relations within the country. So that's what's coming up on the show over the next 3 hours. It is your open line, so I'll be taking your calls on 086 000 2032. That's the number to dial, 086 000 2032. On the WhatsApp voice note line, 0614 104 107.
This Women's Month, SAFM stands with the women shaping South Africa's future. Under the theme, Building Resilient Economies for All, we honor the pioneers, the problem solvers, and the everyday heroes driving change. Stay tuned as SAFM brings you powerful stories and meaningful conversations that move us. SAFM, celebrating women, celebrating progress. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Hey SA, entries for FlySafe's Business Booster are closing soon. So if you're a small local business that needs help taking off, enter at flysafe.co.za, tell us about your business, and you could be one of 6 standout enterprises to win 10 return business class flights plus brand exposure across our various platforms. Whether you're mixing, matching, crafting, or inventing, we want to help your business skyrocket. FlySafe, for the love of fly. T's and C's apply.
This is the story of South Africa's creative heartbeat, where voices rise, where hands create, where stories live. From city stages to village festivals, from gallery walls to global screens, our creativity shapes the world. They are the storytellers, the dreamers, the makers. Join us as we honor brilliance and celebrate South Africa's creative excellence. The National Arts and Culture Awards 2025 on SABC1 on the 23rd of August from 7:30 p.m.
Let's rewind 6 years, when Twitter was still Twitter, not a letter of the alphabet. TikTok was simply the sound your clock made. And Zoom just meant enlarging a picture. So it makes you wonder, what will the next 6 years bring? Hino trucks now come standard with a 6-year drivetrain warranty, covering everything from pistons to gears. So although a lot can change in 6 years, our warranty promise won't. T's and C's apply. Hino, all the way.
Bafana Bafana will host Nigeria in a FIFA 2026 World Cup qualifier at the Toyota Stadium on Tuesday, 9 September at 6 p.m. Tickets are now available nationwide and online from 70 Rand for adults and 40 Rand for children at all Ticket Pro outlets, including Spar, Postnet, and all petrol stations. Get your tickets early to avoid disappointment. Come in Bafana Bafana supporter gear, ready to sing for a win. Gates will open at 3 p.m. If you are not in Bloemfontein, catch the game on SABC2. For more information, visit safa.net and at Bafana Bafana on all social media channels.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
Well, let's get straight into the open line. Then I'm taking your calls on 086 000 2032. That's the number to dial, 086 000 2032. And on the WhatsApp line, 0614 104 107. Stay in Durban. You want to talk about the national dialogue?
Woo, finally, this kid. I just came
Welcome
out
to
from
the
bathroom. I just came out from bathroom when the call said, you know what, I'm just putting you on the line.
TMI,
I'm half naked. I'm half naked. Can you
no,
see that?
Stay, no, man,
Yes.
no.
It's like a lot to go through. It's like a lot. I've never won a lot, but hey, today I just won a lot. Just tell me, let me not waste your time. Are you still with me?
Yes, I am still with you, Stay.
Yeah. You see, the national dialogue, man, my opinion, most people who need to have their lives developed, they are not for a dialogue. But people who are living in nice places, you know, they have breakfast and all 3 courses of a day, meals and stuff, and having all the nice lives, medical aids and houses, nice families, they want a dialogue. You know, but the person who's really in need of a life development doesn't need a dialogue, because we all know. I think all people there accept that. What I think it should be a solution, man. I think we just have to ask questions to the right people, man. People who are owning this country, and there are not a lot of them. There are not 60 million. It's just a tiny of them. We know who they are. We just need to demand what is supposed to be directed to us. For example, man, I don't know why the right to dig minerals is still reserved for minority whites and some few blacks who are handling us. I don't know why, man. And also what I think we need to just disqualify politics and reset the country and put professionals and people who loot, freeze everything, and arrest. And we are sick and tired of commission. Commissions, they don't deal with the problem. And illegal immigrants, ma'am, it's not our work. It's also the work of the minority people, because those are the people who are like are making money out of it. Me staying here in Guamashu, I don't have anything to do with the borders. White people, when they shifted power, they made sure that they're just going to leave the borders unsafe. And people, it's like we don't know that. We know that. And they gave power to people who are not there to lead us. People who they agreed that in order for them to get wealth,
Okay,
they're just going to do the shenanigans that they are doing.
Look, it's quite a number of suggestions that you've come up with this morning. But what is the overarching sense or feeling that you have around what it's going to take to fix this country? You say the national dialogue is definitely not it, because you believe it's targeted at the middle class and others who have some kind of livelihood, not for the poor.
Yes. Maybe we poor people of South Africa, we should just stay away. We don't go to work in any sector. Because, you know, we always been lied to and say we're going to lose jobs. They don't say they're going to lose income. You know? Yeah, they don't talk about their income.
So how would that help?
How would this help? Because, you know, it doesn't
Stay?
Maybe she.
Oh, okay. It looks
People
like
can have rights to keep going and
okay. That line to stay in Durban and Kwamashu is just deteriorating. But I think we've heard the gist of what he wanted to put on the open line this morning. Khadi, you're in Skukune. Good morning to you.
Yes, good morning, Cathy.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, this issue of taxi marshals harassing, us ordinary people from using the e-hailing service, or even harassing people who are driving Avanzas, for example, from just driving freely or giving, people lifts. Like if they see you driving an Avanza, you must be alone in that Avanza. Once they see there are 2 or 3 people, they stop you, But it's been spoken about for years, Cathy. Just tagging into this national dialogue. Now it takes somebody losing their lives at Soweto to have, people, the people who should be concerned now to take the matter seriously. But I just wanted to give a quick example. I was in a boat to the Bosman Station, Pretoria.
Okay.
And the driver told me, look, sorry, ma'am, I can't drop you exactly at the station. I'll have to drop you away from the station because these people are going to harass us. In fact, he was saying a month or 2 ago, there were even gunshots between the marshals and some Bolt drivers there. This is Tshwane, Bosman Station. So I said to him, oh, okay, because I had luggage. I said, I don't know. We'll see how far you can drop me off from the Bosman Station. And then as he did that, there are these marshals who came. They ordered me out of the car. My luggage was in the boot. I had to take it out. The one took the keys and told the Bolt driver to get in on the passenger seat, and they drove off.
Sure.
And then I was there with my bags on the road, and I had to look for somebody to help me so that we walk now to Gautrain. So that's just my
And they just drove off with him like that?
Yeah, they drove off with him. And then, when you get your message from the Bolts that how was your ride,
Yeah.
I reported my experience. I said, no, it was a lousy ride, but I feel sorry for the driver because he did warn me that I will take you there, but I won't drop you exactly at the Bosman Station. So I even asked him, I said, I hope your driver's okay, because they just drove off with him. And I'm wondering what happened. Because apparently when I spoke to other people, that's when they say they will ask for like 1.5 or something before they can return the car.
Yeah. Really, one really has to wonder in a situation like that what they do with the drivers. We have had 1 or 2 reports before about how drivers will say that, they basically held hostage or their cars are impounded until they can find money to go and pay these marshals who will then give them their cars back. But to have somebody driving off with that's kidnapping. That is kidnapping.
Yeah, it is. And even as I was trying to say, no, but it's not his fault, I asked him to. Then they were saying, please, lady, this is not your issue. Just take your bags and go.
Sure. Yeah, Khadi, what an experience, hey? Thanks for calling in and sharing that with us. And that's really what I want, right? Because the more that we hear the stories of what is happening on a day-to-day basis, the better we'll understand just how critical the situation is for citizens when it comes to this particular issue. So I would really encourage some of you who have had these kind of experiences to come forward and tell us what it is that you experienced, what it is that you went through. Kulubese, you're in KZN. Good morning. Hello, Kulubese. All right. Is he on the line? Kulubese? Yes, now I can hear you. Am I saying your name correctly?
The name is Kulubuse.
Oh, because I thought this can't be right. Kulubuse.
Yeah.
I'm going to blame Kanya for that because I thought I've heard of Kulubuse, but I've never heard of Kulubese. Okay, go for it, Kulubuse.
Thank you, and a very good morning to you and to your listeners.
Yes, sir.
I just want to take this opportunity and thank you guys. Thank you as the presenter and thank your producers. Sometimes you interview very rude guests and you handle very difficult callers. But yeah, through this show and other shows within SAFM, one is very informed and enlightened about what is happening within the country. Hence, I'm taking this opportunity to thank you guys. Just now we are talking about the national dialogue, but that's what you guys have been doing ever since. You identify issues, you deep dive on them. Even with your Thursday show, where you check the municipalities, what is happening within municipalities, you investigate. For me, that is a solid national dialogue. That's what we need. Just two issues that I wish to quote in supporting what I'm saying now. Just last week, a guy called on your show to say he wrote a book, Love in Economics, something like that. And he shared how we can find the book. And I went on TikTok where he said we can check the book. I did that and I ordered the book. I received the book from the guy. So through your show, you supported the creativity of what it is something you've always been doing. You invite different people on your show. You talk to them. Hence, I'm taking this opportunity to say, don't give up, guys. Thank you so much. We acknowledge through you guys we are well informed now. Thank you.
Oh, Kulubuse, what a kind message. Thank you so much. Thank you. We truly, truly appreciate it. And it's good to know that the work that we are doing is having some kind of impact. So thank you for really that generous call and, the sentiments that you have expressed. We appreciate it. This is why we do everything that we do. So thank you for seeing it and for recognizing it. All right, it's 9:30. We're going to take the latest news headlines. I'm back with more of your calls. 086 000 2032 is the number to dial. On the WhatsApp voice note line, 0614 104 107.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, the ANC says two of its National Executive Committee members, Malusi Gigaba and Senzo Mchunu, will face the party's disciplinary committee following their public statements. South African banks accused of rand manipulation are set to present their case to the Constitutional Court today. They plan to outline the financial and reputational damage caused by the Competition Commission's allegations of being part of a banking cartel and the funeral service of a 4-year-old girl who died from her injuries after being physically and sexually assaulted, allegedly by her father, is underway at the Don Maitman Civic Centre in Eldorado Park in Johannesburg. I'll have details on these and other stories at 10.
Let's have the conversation. WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107.
Good morning, Cathy. How are you doing this morning? As for me, I was traumatized by the taxis. I was doing my research in Hout Bay, one of the townships of Cape Town. And when I was doing my research, I was parking my car there. I did not know that I'm parked next to the taxi rank while I was doing my research. And they came and they say, you are an Uber, we are going to impound you. These taxi guys, they demanded 2,500. I had to call my supervisor, my professor, my doctor to send money to them. They took my car keys, they took my phone, and then when they saw the message of money coming in, then they said, let's drive to the ATM. They withdrew the money, and then they gave me back my car. Yeah, that's it. It's terrible.
Dumela's Cathy. Long story short, in East London, I was stopped by taxi patrollers, taken to the taxi rank. When I got there, they demanded 1,500 rands. One of my colleagues called the police. They came. They found me in the office with the taxi bosses, and the police asked if I agree with the fine, to pay the fine. I said, how am I going to agree with the fine? And then the police said, no, you have to pay the fine and leave. So I had to pay 1,500 rands, took my car and left. So yeah, you call the police, you know that there's nothing that they are going to do. Let's swallow is London.
Hello, Cathy. Nabalaleli bonke lapha ekhaya. All right. Yeah, they've put the sugar on the engine oil there, on the engine where you must put the oil. They put sugar. They start the car died. The problem was that you given people they don't want to see the 7-seater, by the way. So that was the problem. But later on, I understood that these guys are under pressure. The government has let them down. How can you allow people to pay 15,000 for a Toyota Quantum in this current economy? People are not working, people have their own cars. So they are set up for failure. I understand their frustration, but it is wrong to take their frustration to other people. Thank you.
Taxi violence. Last month, as I was driving in Vetkopi's Road towards Mall of the South, just opposite, just before my arrival to the spa, I stopped opposite the garage to attend to something on my vehicle with my hazards on. There was a lady running behind. I guess she was under the impression that I stopped for her, and I had no business to do with her. Just on that, a white sedan vehicle stopped behind me. A guy alighted, accused me that I'm hitchhiking, and he demanded money from me. And I told him to his face that this is extortion, and I promised that I will do something harmful to him. Kanjo.
All right. Wow. Sure. I mean, some of these stories, pouring sugar in the oil. Was it in the oil tank? One of our listeners said. Why? Why would somebody do that? Effectively destroying that car that cost this person thousands and thousands of rand, all because you want and you feel entitled to their money. Where does this money end up is the question that we need to ask. Where does all of this money end up? Because until we find out the answer to that question, we might not be able to deal with the fact that it's happening in the first place.
Morning, Cathy. Yeah, it's not only e-hailing drivers facing this problem. It's also affecting the people who are doing the funerals, who transport funerals to other countries. Like, for example, I'm going to use Great Hope. If you've got someone who's passed away and you want to transport him to Zimbabwe, we must pay 1,000 to the tax rank so that the combi or the van for a Great Hope can manage to enter in places like Danune, in places like Slovo and Cape Town. So you are forced to pay 1,000 and you are in the time of mourning and the funds are not there. You need almost 50,000 to transport the body, and the tax rank will want 1,000 if you don't use their taxi, if you use the Great Hope van or the other vans or funeral palace. Thank you.
Let's have the conversation. WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107.
All right, so I'm still, taking your calls and your WhatsApp voice notes. Thanks for those of you that have gotten in touch in terms of the experiences that you have been having. And as you can hear, the fact that a police officer can arrive on scene and tell you, do what they say you must do, that is going to be your only way out. That in and of itself tells a story. Let me go to Welcome. Is it Pete? Good morning.
Yes, Pete, my child.
All right, go for it.
We've got a problem down here in my family. In your municipal wash, we need to assist because we are suffering from lack of water. Cathy, let me tell you, we are paying our services. Are you hearing me?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, I'm paying my services and I'm old, I can't walk. I don't own even a single cent at municipality. But I have to ask a person to go and fetch water for me. Even I've been listening from your radio yesterday. A tradition was also here. These people of white firms were complaining about shortage of water here in Belgo. Can you do something for us?
Look, Pete, we can certainly put it on the agenda. I know we have done Matjhabeng municipality before. I don't know can't remember how long ago it was. But of course, I understand, your frustration. Have you been without water for a long time now? Or was there a time that you did have water?
Even now, as we speak, the water is running. We are running short of water now. It is a daily bread.
How long has it been going on for?
Well, sorry, I cannot tell you the exact time. But as I'm talking to you, even the butcheries, big butcheries, they've been complaining to DA leader yesterday. Yeah, it's a predicament. I don't know. But what pains me is because I'm paying my services. Every month I'm not. You can check. We are paying, but it's not good for us to suffer like this.
Yeah. Okay, Pete. Thanks for calling in with that issue. It's certainly one that we'll try to look into. Look, electricity, not having electricity makes it hard to get by on a day-to-day basis. Not having water is simply impossible. There isn't a single human being that can survive without water. And so, Pete, I understand really the situation that you and many others in Matjhabeng could well be finding yourself in at this moment. Tau, you're calling us from Lichtenburg. Good morning.
Good morning, Cathy. We are speaking to Mr. Tau here in Budibe village near Lichtenburg under acting Khosi Victor Matlaba.
Okay.
Yes, on the issue of, I'm calling on the issue of mining. There is a mine here, it was called Lavage, now it's Afrimat, where as farmers, we don't have a land to graze our cattle. We are trying to speak to the mine, we are trying to speak to the traditional council here in the village, but there is no any response. As the community of Budibe, we've been writing letters to your DMR, the office of the Premier, the Cocta office, to assist with the issue of this mine. As I speak right now, the community are at the site demanding that they should not extend the quarry because they are mining the lime soil here.
Tau, has the community ever engaged the mine?
Community are trying to engage the mine. The mine say, go to a traditional council. Because the only person you can talk with is the traditional council.
Have you done that?
The community, yes, they're trying to do that with no luck. It seems like the traditional council is taking sides of this Afrimat.
What's the name of the traditional council, Tau?
Taurapulana Traditional Council.
Yeah, because they're the ones that are supposed to be advocating for you as members of the community.
But
and surely they're not blind also to how you're being affected by this.
They are blind, Casey, because it's a vice versa. It seems that they are fighting with this Afrimat. They are mining. They are approaching the village. There is a family called the Sebokolodi family there. If you can visit this mine, you can see they are contravening even the mining charter. They are mining within 500 meters to the Sebokolodi family. They are not rehabilitating the land for livestock. They are still want to extend the quarry. Where will we supposed to graze our livestock?
Yeah. And Dawood, are there lots of families in the community that have livestock?
There is a lot of families who have livestock. We are talking about approximately 300 households that they are grazing that side of their mine.
Sure. That's a lot. That's a lot of people that are affected, Dawood.
So the people of Budibe are violated. It seems like the Taura Pulana Traditional Council, they are cohabiting with this AfriNet, because there was a lady at the Traditional Council that last time said there is no one who can touch this mine. If anyone come near mine, there must be a protection order. Who is the member of Traditional Council? No SLPs, no nothing.
Okay, Tau. It's an important issue. Yeah.
Can we make this case on your citizen corner so that the Department of DMR, the Minister Molapis, the Office of the Premier in the Northwest, the Taura Pulana Traditional Council, put them on air in a citizen corner regarding this AfriNet, and also this AfriNet be there on air, Cathy.
Okay, Tau. We've heard you loud and clear. And it's the experience of so many communities in mining areas. But what must people do when tribal councils are seen to be acting against the interests of the communities? Because sometimes we know that they're, given shares and they act as custodians on behalf of communities. So they almost become direct beneficiaries. And in some instances, whatever it is that they're getting from these agreements with the mining companies, it's not even filtering down to the rest of the community. It's staying only with those that are part of the royal household. It's a pattern and a trend that we need to address, because look at how it's affecting the community. If the livestock can't go out to graze, it means that people will then only be able to keep less. With time, it affects their ability to provide for themselves. And then before you know it, the cycle of poverty is perpetuating itself. It really is something that we need to be paying more attention to, because of just the effect that it has on these communities, and in particular on rural communities. Because there isn't that much urbanization taking place. There's only so much that people can do to feed their families, to have some kind of livelihood. And if you strip them of that opportunity, what then are they left with? Because it's not like they're getting jobs from the mines either. So what are you expecting them to do? How are they going to be able to fend for themselves when the environment that they're supposed to be using, the ecosystem that they are beneficiaries of, is being stripped away right in front of their eyes? So it's certainly an issue that we can look into, Tao. Thanks for raising it this morning.
Hello, Cathy. Hello, SAFM listeners. Pude here in Velcom. Cathy, I would like you to please explain, man, to us about this Senzo Mkhunu and Gigaba, the utterances that they were throwing on publicly about the dying of the ANC, and that the ANC should call itself to order. Could you please bring a little bit of closure to that and highlight us, or what's really going down there? I don't actually understand that story. What's happening there? Thank you, Sis Kathy.
Hey, this is Cathy and all SAFM listeners. Good morning. The charge or discipline Kikaba, the skeletons will break loose. I just wonder what is the difference what Mkhunu said and what Kikaba said. And one would remember that even the SG once quoted as saying that the ANC is leaking like water, ivuza vo vo vo. And again, Kwede Mandasha once said that the ANC is full of criminals. Ayikho lento esikuyo ngamasela onke la. Well, this is really ironic that there will be others who will be facing disciplinary charges, yet others are left alone. This is Andile from Stakespret in the Eastern Cape near the city borders.
Yeah, interesting contributions there on the issue of Malusi Gigaba and Senzo Mkunu. I saw the statement by the ANC condemning the statements that they made, but also saying that they would be facing disciplinary action. Senzo Mkunu warned that the party was at risk of losing power. This is if it fails to regroup before 2026, which is the local government elections. And then Malusi Gigaba over the weekend gave a sit-down interview. I think it was to the Sunday Times, if I'm not mistaken. His sort of first, big interview with the Sunday Times since about 2018, the publication had said. And he basically had criticized the party's NEC and said that it had lost direction. It was failing in implementing its mandate. But what he also said in that interview was that he had not closed himself off to the possibility of running for leader of the ANC. He said he must not be counted out of the race. I don't know if that has anything to do with the subsequent disciplinary action that is now following. But I found it strange, not because they said it, but because I don't know if they said anything wrong. Did they say anything wrong? No, like really, did they say anything wrong? Has the NEC not lost direction? Does the ANC not need to regroup before the 2026 elections? I was baffled by that. And if anything, it sort of pointed to, again, what seems to be a complete out of touchness with the reality of what's in the ground. It's like, okay, which world are you guys living in sometimes? That's what I thought when I saw it.
SAFM celebrates its 89th birthday this month by giving listeners an exclusive opportunity to attend the prestigious Joy of Jazz taking place at the Sandton Convention Centre from the 26th to the 28th of September 2025. To stand a chance to win these sought-after tickets, simply SMS SAFM 89 followed by your name to 41391 and stay tuned to SAFM as we could be calling you. SAFM is the official media partner for the Dipala stage at the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz. Entries open from the 7th of August and close on the 31st of August 2025. Winners will be randomly selected and called from the 1st of September 2025. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply. T's and C's apply. Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday the 23rd of July for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. all on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC. Call us on 086 000 2032.
All right, I'm still taking your calls on the open line. 086 000 2032 is the number to dial. Let me go to Benoni. Bishop Mtambo, good morning.
Good morning, Sister Cathy. How are you?
Good, thank you, sir.
I'm just by this topic of the taxi industry.
Yes, sir.
Because it's the issue that I'm facing almost every month, every weekend when I'm traveling. Where I'm in Benoni, we have branches in other provinces like KZN, Mpumalanga and Swaziland. So funerals and church conferences, I don't hire those taxis from the rank because of the safety. Because those people, they work the whole day in the afternoon, they want to check the congregants to the long distance, and it's not safe for my congregants. So normally I hire buses from Avis and other companies at the airport to travel so that my drivers from church can use them to drive. They're being abused every weekend, every month when I'm traveling. They have to call me sometimes when I'm not driving with them. I have to pay 1,000, 2,000 rand per bus to these guys, and they have to stop them for 2 hours while we late for the conference, we late for funeral. They have to wait the congress on the road because these guys, they're abusing them. They want to pay this money. I reported to the police. They can't do nothing about it. I don't know why the country is being owned by the taxi industry on the road. Why we all paying for this road? We're paying for our gifts. We're paying for. On these buses we have the agreement from the agent that these buses rented, but they don't care about that. They say, why don't you use taxis from the rank if your congregants are traveling? Why is that this in this country? Why there's no law in this country? Sometimes I have to, but spirituality must be declared before church and fight with them before the taxis are released. And you get to church, you're no longer fine because of that. You're angry, you're fed up before church because of these guys. They don't care. You're wearing uniform, they don't care. You're wearing your collar, they don't care.
So Bishop Mtambo, it sounds like you are now having to plan how much you give them every time you prepare for a trip. It becomes part of the budget that you have to set aside.
All the time, because I must plan to hire a bus per day. I must plan for kilometers on the road. I must plan for diesel on the road. And then I must plan per bus how much. Maybe on the way down I must pay. On the way back I must pay. Because maybe I'm going to Richards Bay, maybe I'm going to Devon. I must pay on the way down. When they're coming back again from that funeral, I must pay again per bus, depending on how many buses that I'm using. I'm facing this thing every weekend, every month. When I'm traveling, KZN, Swaziland, Mpumalanga.
Sure. And to think about it, that's about across 3 provinces that you're facing the same issue.
I'm facing this issue, especially in the western KZN, especially in Pongola, that side, when you go to Richards Bay, Pongola and Kitterton, and then when you go to Firehead side, Firehead, and then when you go to Durban, after Fanrina, and that's why I'm facing this issue all the time. When I'm crossing the West provinces, I'm Mpumalanga and KZN. That's a West province. That obviously you found them standing there with 5 cars, 10 of them. You talk to them, maybe I'm not there, I have to talk to the drivers who I'm not there. You talk to these guys, they drop your phone, you call them again, guys, can I talk to you? Why are you doing this to me? They ask for passenger list. My drivers will give them passenger list. They want money, why your bishop doesn't use our taxis? No, he doesn't want to use because it's his right. He wants to use the safety transport for the congregants because of his right. But they don't care about that,
Sure. Yeah, Bishop Mtambo, thanks again for just calling in to share that with us, because it highlights the scale of the issue. Not even...
I'm going to church because so now I must carry a gun, I must fight on the road, I must pray. What must I do? There's no law in this. Why the police department thing, because it's not safe. You can't.
Okay, Bishop Mtambo, we're losing your line because it does sound like you're also out on the road. But I think we've been able to hear enough that at least paints a picture for us in terms of what the experience is. Now you have to have a list of congregants, and I imagine that to prove that the name on the list is who they say it is, you must provide proof of ID. You must take out your church uniform to show that you are part of a congregation. Really? Is that the level of bullying and harassment that is being allowed to take place in this country? Ndlovu, I wanted to take you, but I'm looking at the time. We won't have enough time for you to speak about the issue you want to put on the table today. I'm going to ask that we hold Ndlovu for today. We can take him tomorrow on the open line. Let me take this voice note, and it'll probably lead us into news.
Good morning, Cathy. The issue at hand today about Bolt drivers being victimized. Yeah, it's happening a lot. It's happening a lot around here. I've got a friend of mine who's a Bolt driver. He was also abducted one day, and at a mall, he was dropping someone at a mall, and then they came and blocked him, and then they took his keys, and then they demanded something like 1.5 to 2,000, I think, from him. And that's his daily work. Sometimes they take away all your work day that you will have done. Sometimes they demand even more. They impound the car for days. This thing is happening a lot, and these guys are victimizing people. They're abducting people, and the authorities are quiet about it. This is the highwayman. Maybe since it is being highlighted like this, maybe some action will be taken. I hope so. Thank you.
In our top stories, 2 ANC NEC members face disciplinary action and funeral service of Eldorado Park girl underway. Good morning. The ANC says 2 of its National Executive Committee members, Malusi Gigaba and Senzo Mchunu, will face the party's disciplinary committee following their public statements. This follows Gigaba's claims that the ANC has lost its way and failed to achieve its goals. Meanwhile, Mchunu warned that the party is on the verge of collapse. ANC national spokesperson Mahlengi Bengu Mutsiri says the party condemns such behavior and disciplinary action is inevitable.
The necessary steps must be taken to correct that kind of behavior. The 2 colleagues are going to be hauled before the disciplinary committee of the ANC, and we expect all our members to act and be exemplary, particularly those that are in elected positions, let alone the fact that those people would also be in the national executive of the ANC. And so we frown upon this behavior because they have the privilege of serving in the highest body of the organization. They cannot step out of that. It's totally unacceptable.
South African banks accused of rand manipulation are set to present their case to the Constitutional Court today. They plan to outline the financial and reputational damage caused by the Competition Commission's allegations of being part of a banking cartel. In January last year, the Competition Appeals Court reviewed the matter against 28 banks, dismissing the case against most of them. Nosipo Khadebe has the details.
Despite the Competition Appeal Court's dismissal of the majority of the claims, the case is now being taken to the Apex Court. The institutions approaching the court include FirstRand and Standard Bank, among other local banks. Their legal teams will spend the next 4 days arguing that some of the evidence presented, including conversations spanning over 7 years, is too weak to substantiate a single overarching conspiracy.
ALS paramedic spokesperson Gareth Jameson says search and rescue crews are resolute in their search for the missing 61-year-old Johannesburg pilot whose plane crashed into the sea off Durban's Suncoast Beach 6 days ago. The light aircraft crashed into the sea while the pilot was giving an aerial display to school children following an international aviation conference. Pieces of wreckage started to wash ashore within hours of the crash. Jameson says the search was being hampered by poor conditions this morning.
They do have specialised equipment that they're also using now that are on the boats itself, and then obviously as far as possible the divers go into the water. The biggest issue, as you said, is the conditions, but also the visibility is very bad in this water. I mean, if you just look in the water, it's brown when the waves are breaking. So the team meets every morning and then obviously waits, checks the tides, checks the wind, etc., and then come out and try and find the wreckage, and they're going to keep on trying to try and bring closure to the family.
The funeral service of a 4-year-old girl who died from her injuries after being physically and sexually assaulted, allegedly by her father, is underway at the Don Maitman Civic Centre in Eldorado Park in Johannesburg. Her death sparked outrage and renewed calls for stronger child protection measures. The little girl's parents appeared in the Protea Magistrates Court yesterday. The father is facing multiple charges, including murder, rape, assault and child abuse, while the mother faces charges of murder and failing to report sexual offences against a child. Lerato Makola reports.
Outside the hall, soft trumpet music fills the air as young musicians play to comfort the mourners. Inside, photographs of the little girl are displayed alongside flower arrangements. Family, friends, and members of the Eldorado Park community are slowly making their way into the Don Maitman Hall for the funeral service. The hall is filled with mourners, both young and old. The atmosphere is somber.
MTN has announced it's now the subject of a grand jury investigation by the U.S. Department of Justice. The investigation will look into MTN's operations in Afghanistan and Iran. Group CEO Ralph Mupita says MTN was approached through its external U.S. counsel. The telecommunications company owns 49% non-controlling interest in Iran's cell, while the stakes in Afghanistan has been disposed of. Speaking during the company's results presentation in Johannesburg, Mupita says MTN is not being accused of any wrongdoing at this point.
Yeah, I mean, we were as comprehensive as we can be with this kind of investigation. So through our lawyers, there was a request for the information, and we said we would collaborate. The request for information is related to our previous market of Afghanistan for prior years and Iran. So that has been their request. We are talking to them. They have not accused us of any wrongdoing. And that's as far as we can disclose to you right now, because anything else, to your point around, is it related to this? That would be speculation.
Recapping the top story, the ANC says two of its National Executive Committee members, Malusi Gigaba and Senzo Mchunu, will face the party's disciplinary committee following their public statements. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
This Women's Month, SAFM stands with the women shaping South Africa's future. Under the theme, Building Resilient Economies for All. We honor the pioneers, the problem solvers, and the everyday heroes driving change. Stay tuned as SAFM brings you powerful stories and meaningful conversations that move us. SAFM, celebrating women, celebrating progress. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 105.7 FM in Cape Town.
Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
Eight after 10 o'clock. Welcome to the second hour of the Talking Point. Coming up in this hour, we're talking finance with Brian Hirsch, and he's going to be sharing some key insights about women and their role in finance. I must say, I'm looking forward to hearing what he's going to say. The perspective, at least, of a financial advisor. Is it going to talk about how women manage finances in households? Well, in South Africa, I guess, given the fact that the majority of households are women-led, then it would automatically mean that, the majority of finances in this country in households are managed by women. But I'm curious to know what exactly it is that he wants to share with us in this regard. Before we get into it, lots of different issues that you've raised on the open line this morning. We'll take a couple of your WhatsApp voice notes and then we'll get into Brian Hirsch.
Let's have the conversation. WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107.
Good day, SFM. If you look back over the past 30 years of the total decay and destruction of all state entities, the mining industry, the taxi industry, the violence, the political killings, you name it, the falling of Transnet, total decay, and you look at our societal ills and you look at our state departments and councillors are being slaughtered day in and day out. And if you look at the gangsterism involved in the state, in all provinces, in the tender system, all these greedy gluttons slaughtering each other for state tenders and all this, and so, then it is just a one. If you look at the whole picture, it is just one polluted and a toxic environment all around us.
Hey, this is Cathy and all SAFM listeners. Good morning. Can anyone tell me where is Professor Kachalia, the interim police minister, when we see the banning of e-hailing, taxis, buses, and just unbearable violence from Maponya Mall and so on, and also the conflicting statements made by Santiago. What is happening, with this minister? That's Andile from Stexpredi in the Eastern Cape near Sutuporas.
Morning, Cathy. Yes, nobody is perfect, Cathy. Even in politics, God is perfect. He's the only person who is perfect. And if you are leading people with lies, just like Mandis' song, that politicians are lying, God will not allow that. Everything depends on God. Those who are missing the gravy train, discussing filthy conversations, God will lead us. We will get somebody who's going to lead us from God. Thank you, Cathy.
Hi, Cathy. Hoping you well. This is Daniel. Cathy, yesterday I became very emotional as I was watching the former national speaker, Mrs. Nagula, crying. She was crying like a baby, man, in a court, man. And I can tell you, this is something that, it kills her. You can tell it kills her every day, every night. Especially seeing that the likes of Zizi Kotwa, Numvula Nukonyana, Temis Melan are walking free. And every day she's got to, every day this is something that, she will have to attend these corruption case. And even if she wins this case, Cathy, this is something that will stay with her for a long, long time. Thanks, Cathy.
Morning, Cathy and your team. Yeah, there's something that's happening here in Khayelitsha in Makaza. All the Somalian shops are closed. because of the extortion guys. And is it possible that you can get hold of the authorities and ask them what's going on? How can they allow such a situation? You know, people from that area now, they need to go to the mall to buy a loaf of bread or even one banana for the school kids. No, even one shop is open. It's 5 days now. Because the gangster, there's a new sheriff in town who's fighting with the old one.
Cathy, good morning. The national dialogue should definitely address the missing middle. When I speak about the missing middle, I speak about adults between the ages of 36 and 45 who cannot get access to whatever government programs because they are over the age of 35. And in between that, there aren't any people looking to recruit a 35 or a 36-year-old with no experience. Now, those are the missing middle, and we need the national dialogue to address that. Can't have 60-year-olds, 70-year-olds falling asleep in parliament and have this young, vibrant youth not working and not being given opportunities at government level. That's my say. Atangyen Polokwane, Sushil. Thank you.
Dumelang Mzansi, welcome to the Health Club. This is where we unpack the issues that affect our health, your well-being, and your everyday life.
Arthritis, high blood.
Losing your health is an event that is not predictable.
Organized crime syndicates have infiltrated our healthcare system and has cost the country billions of rands.
Claims that are fraudulent could be anything between 5 to 15%.
I'm your host, Clement Manyatela. This is the Health Club.
This year, the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz Festival presents 3 unforgettable days deep in the art and heart of jazz. From the 26th, 27th, and 28th of September, Umu Sankare, Abapemu, Jasmia Horn, Silent Law and the Noisemakers, Najbonk Trio, Michelle Ndingio-Jello, Willem Siini, Gabby Mutuba, and over 50 world-class acts will be ready to welcome you and yours to 4 magnificent stages of the Sandton Convention Center. Take me there. Buy your tickets at Ticketmaster now.
Bafana Bafana will host Nigeria in a FIFA 2026 World Cup qualifier at the Toyota Stadium on Tuesday, 9 September at 6 p.m. Tickets are now available nationwide and online from 70 Rand for adults and 40 Rand for children at all Ticket Pro outlets, including Spar, Postnet, and all petrol stations. Get your tickets early to avoid disappointment. Come in Bafana Bafana supporter gear, ready to sing for a win. Gates will open at 3 p.m. If you are not in Bloemfontein, catch the game on SABC2. For more information, visit safa.net and at Bafana Bafana on all social media channels.
Cathy Mohlahlana is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
Talking Finance with Brian Hirsch, making sense of your finance.
Brian Hirsch, you look a little battered and bruised, looking blue today. Bad weekend, eh?
Bad weekend. And if you're a Man United supporter, the weekend didn't get better. It just got worse and worse and worse. I mean, I can't believe what happened this last weekend. Anyway, next weekend's another weekend, and we're playing cricket today out in Australia. Who knows? Let's hope we have some better sporting results.
Yeah, I guess you can't win all the time. You know, that's what they say. They say we can't win all the time.
Well, a great cricketer and a cricketer that caused great trouble in the Bodyline series, and for most of you who don't know, in 1932, England went to Australia with the intention of beating Australia, and they bowled at everyone's head. Remember, they weren't wearing any helmets, and it was called Bodyline Theories. And Douglas Jardine of that team said, "Show me a good loser, and I'll show you a loser."
That's a good one, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
We all
Fair
know,
enough.
we all have to lose graciously, but I tell you, no one likes to lose.
Absolutely not. Most people don't like to lose.
Well,
anyway.
let's hope the women this month. It's Women's Month.
Yeah.
I actually think it's Women's Month every month. I think my wife has every month as a Women's Month.
Lucky girl. Eh?
Yeah, absolutely.
So today we're going to be talking about key insights about women and their role in finance. And I'm really interested to see the approach you have to this topic.
Well, I'd like to just deal with a few statistics. A survey conducted by Momentum shows that more women are stepping into financial leadership positions. Standard Bank data reflects a similar trend. More women are financing homes on their own, and for the past 10 years, women have consistently accounted for around about 70% of all home loans given to women. In addition, more women today, particularly those aged 31 to 45, own cars compared to a decade ago. And when it comes to insurance, 51% of claims are made by women. And if you have a look at the funeral stacks reflect that 70% of women pay for funeral schemes for the extended family. These shifts highlight changing consumer behaviour. They also raise important concerns about the persistent gender gap. Discovery's report found that women earn an average 76 cents for every rand earned by men, a 24% gap, which widens to 39% for older women. Research by Stellenbosch University and other places, the gap gender even higher at around 32.5%. So we're going to come to how does this impact on ladies' savings and the ability to provide for retirement, bearing in mind that 78 to 80% of women will have to deal with the family's finances in later years simply because women are living that much longer than men. Additional challenges are one, career interruptions and caregiving responsibility, as women are far more likely to take off for maternity or family care, and I want to deal with some of the things they need to be aware about that. At the same time, as I mentioned, women tend to live longer, and earning less means they're going to have less, yet a loaf of bread to a woman, a loaf of bread to a man is exactly the same price. Milk is exactly the same. Women don't get a discount because they're a female. Statistics also show that 90% of women are more likely to have to manage household expenses, particularly having to manage children at school, manage their work careers, and manage everything that goes with that. And most women have considered themselves poor in retirement years. There's not enough, and as you know, with the two dangers ahead of you, with inflation and longevity, women living that much longer, and on top of it, with inflation in retirement at 8 to 9%, it's really a major problem for women. So what can be done? The first thing I'm saying is there needs to be more enforcement and to address equal pay and address disparities in career advancement. That is absolutely critical. I think it is happening. I think more and more women are now going onto boards of companies, but they need to understand that because they may have come up from a lower level of income, that the increases may not be sufficient. I think about a woman who was maybe earning 75% of what a male counterpart, they now move up. Very difficult to give someone a third increase in salary. The second thing that's important, if they're going to have children, they need to create buffers during the time maybe of the start of pregnancy to the date of going on maternity leave, so they've got money to pay for insurance policies and, most important, carry on with funeral schemes. I also don't believe that women should leave pension funds, and what you need to do with your husband, you need to make sure that if you are going to take time off to rear your children and look after them, your husband makes contributions to your retirement package so that you are not left in the dark and find your retirement package so much less because of those years. So retirement funds also need to be more flexible, including the contributions that adjust for this maternity leave. And then there's got to be targeted support for women in pre-retirement accumulation and investment planning. There's got to be open discussion. Women need to be involved in the discussions of the family. Why? Because it's no point leaving everything to the husband or the man of the house, because ultimately you are going to be left and having to deal with those finances. I had a couple that came in yesterday. She's got 3 children. She's got no life insurance. And she said, I met with them and I said, critical to you is you've just taken on a bond. You need life insurance. And you don't. And she earns 15,000 rand a month. Her husband comes home with 62. So there's a difference in the event of the husband dying or the wife dying. And husbands, don't think that when you die or your wife dies, life isn't going to change. Companies look slightly differently at a lady who's lost her husband in maybe a more senior position. They may not. It may be very is the word overt? Very overt, but times change, and husbands need to realize if you've got a career path and you lose your wife, who's going to look after the children? Who's going to provide the children with their need, their values in life? Spend time with them, watching them play sport. And there's got to be a complete new alignment to this situation, and that's really what I wanted to raise. Statistics reflect that women are getting more involved. They're still way below in pay parity, and that's what they need to do. And can I say the one thing is, I get more calls from women who want to retire early than from men. If you're raising children and you're doing everything in the home, maybe you want to take it a bit easy. If you retire early, it's a no-no game, because one, you've contributed for a shorter period, and two, you're going to start living off your money now. And I don't need to tell you, someone retiring at 55 or 65 is going to live that much longer, the person retiring at 55. So early retirement for females are really, because of your life expectancy, is something you've really got to think carefully. And when government makes offers to you under the government pension fund to take early retirement, don't even look at it, turn it down, and carry on working until as long as you can.
Brian, you've mentioned some of the, important stages of life that people go through. And it's interesting because when we look at women, often it seems that there is a financial cost to the stages of life that women go through. So, number one, you talk about the difference in pay between when you're a younger woman, when you're older woman, right? And the challenges that often arise as a result of that. The other issue is what happens when women start having children and they have to build their families, right? There is an economic cost that is also affiliated to that. And with some of the clients that perhaps you deal with, how have you gone about navigating that conversation so that everybody involved is aware of that cost and there's steps that are actively being taken to ensure that one partner is not suffering over the other simply because there was a decision in the family to have kids or to do this or to do that?
Well, fortunately, most families will plan children and will have children. So there's always going to be that disparity. The difference is when a woman brings home a salary, she needs to be saving more of that salary for herself rather than contributing to the family. So it's not just about we contribute equally, we put money away and savings plans are made. Women need to consciously understand these gaps in their career. And sometimes the gaps may start off permanently. You resign from your job. Your job doesn't give you the opportunity to have maternity leave, and therefore maternity leave with a certain amount of months paid where you carry on. The worst thing you can do is when you resign from your job is cash in your pension fund because you may need money. So it's preservation of pension funds, although we've got much more rigid rules now on our pension funds through the two-pot system. There's got to be a discussion. When I meet with a woman or a man and we're talking family situations, I talk to both of them. I have both the husband and the wife, both of them doing the same sort of homework. Remember, 1 in 3 marriages end in divorce. And depending on your marriage regime can also have a major impact. I'm dealing with four different groups of people at the moment who are getting divorced. You can't believe the difficulty and that, because in all 4 cases, the husbands are the breadwinners or the husbands have more assets. And it's a fight for the woman to get money out of the husband. I always believe in the clean break principle, not the maintenance principle, because while maintenance may sound good, the courts Do not enforce it. It's a major problem when husbands stop paying. I was also chairman of a school, and one of my jobs as chairman of the school body was to try and collect money towards the end of the year. And every woman that I ever spoke to about money, or every husband, they always said, my husband is responsible, and the husband would say, no, my wife's responsible, she had no money. So when you say, what approach do we take? It's a joint approach. It's a approach where husbands and wives sit down, where we're talking about married, and look through the financial affairs of the family. What does the woman have in her name? What does the husband have in his name? And then if a woman is a single woman, then she needs to really understand her situation and what she needs to do in terms of short, medium, and long-term investing. Short is when you're going to need money. You want a home. You want to pay off that home. Because at retirement, you've got to have three things done, I've always said. Home paid for, no debt, and a good healthcare program. And women need to take control of their financial affairs. They're a lot better than what they were. For every 4 callers I get with queries, 3 are women. So women they listen to our program, and they are taking cognizance of what we say.
You know, if we think about, Brian, the fact that the majority of households in this country are run by single women, there is an economic cost to that. And, you know, if you then are to apply the same conversation, but to a single-headed household by this woman who's having to do all of these things by herself, how do we tailor it for women in that position?
Well, as you know, there's an amount of money available, and the budget is critical. What are you spending money on? What do you need to put aside for future needs? What do you need to put aside for later in life? People of 30, 35 don't think about retirement, don't even think, so many years ahead. But if you don't start early, you're going to have a lot less. So put a little bit away now, you'll have a lot more. Put away a little bit at age 45, you'll have nothing at retirement. So it's a proper financial plan. And unfortunately, let me say this to you, only 30% of financial planners are females. So again, getting to the right person, understanding what you need to do. It's all about education.
Okay.
It's all about empowering yourself to educate where you're going. Women are moving that way, not enough and not quick enough.
We're going to continue this conversation shortly, but, there's something that Brian said that I think really, for me, has made this hit home. Because if you are to take the advice for women who are in sort of the nucleus family and having to have somebody who contributes to paying the finances, etc., then it means that gap that is created for women who are single is so much bigger. And so they have to stretch themselves that much further just to be able to get by. And perhaps it also explains why then the face of poverty in a country like ours remains women. Because if that responsibility is there, if there are men in households or men in general who are not showing up financially and contributing what they should be to having their children taken care of, this is the situation it creates. We're going to continue with this conversation shortly. It's time for the latest news headlines.
Thank you, Cathy. On the news headlines on SAFM, I am Onde Lambana, and a very good morning. The ANC says 2 of its National Executive Committee members, Malusi Gigaba and Senzo Mchunu, will face the party's disciplinary committee following their public statements. 3 learners and the principal of Hoër School Roodepoort sustained injuries following a fight with learners from Westridge High School, west of Johannesburg. And Johannesburg Municipal Council Speaker Margaret Arnold has encouraged parents and community members to take a stand against gender-based violence by reporting all incidents to the relevant authorities. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Taking a look at your markets this morning, the rand is currently trading at 17 rand 63 to the dollar, 23 rand 80 to the pound, and 20 rand 58 to the euro. Markets in Asia were mixed at the closing bell. The JC mainly lower in mid-morning trade. Markets in Europe also mixed this hour. Gold is trading at $3,339. Platinum $1,336 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil is at $66.01 a barrel.
The National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So at this point in time, if a person is a foreign national who's documented, you're obliged to provide healthcare service if they arrive at a hospital. If the same person is a foreign national who's undocumented, do I take it, you are also obliged to do the same thing?
For two reasons. Yes, because of the Constitution, we cannot discriminate against anybody based on the immigration status. That's number one. Number two, our healthcare workers have signed an oath when they graduate, Hippocratic oath, which says they will never discriminate against any healthcare user based on whatever reason.
Cathy Mohlahlana, the spokesperson for the Department of Health.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM. Find the podcast at safm.co.za.
Talking Finance with Brian Hirsch, making sense of your finance.
All right, we continue the conversation on the talking point. Brian Hirsch is sitting firmly in his chair as we navigate our way through the hour and looking specifically at some insights around women and their role in finance. I'll be taking your calls on 086 000 2032. That's the number to dial, and on the WhatsApp voice note line 0614 104 107. I'm also curious to know, Brian, perhaps what are the essentials from a financial plan point of view that you believe every woman must have? But before you answer that question, I still want to continue on the note that we were on before the headlines. And it was really about the cost of absent fathers in societies, because that cost is borne by women. And that's why women remain economically marginalized, regardless of how much there might be a perception that things are changing for women. They're moving up the corporate ladder. More women are getting more jobs. What you've told us today is that, yes, even for the woman who's on top, she's still earning that much less than her male counterparts. That's on the one hand. On the other, those that are somehow able to participate in the economy, their participation also is limited by the fact that at some point they might want to start a family, and dedicate time to raising children, etc., etc. There's an economic cost to that. And it's probably multiplied when we talk about single women.
Well, the big cost is their inability to save. They have a smaller amount of money. And can I just make one comment? That we made the comment that women are being paid less. I don't think we should generalise completely, because maybe at the higher levels women are being equal pay for equal work. But the statistics reflect that that's not the case. But as you know, they always say statistics, damn lies. But I think what is important to understand, a woman who's the breadwinner and is on her own and supporting children can't find the additional amount to put away, and hoping that they will put money away at a later stage. That later stage does not compound at the same rate as your early age. So my advice to women when you're first getting married, and particularly depending on your marriage regime, you should start your savings plans. Your husband should start savings plans for you to take care of those periods that maybe you won't be able to contribute. And if you start at a younger age, if someone starts putting money at the age of 25 and they put money away for 5 years to age 30, as compared to someone at 45 putting that same amount away that young person will have a lot more money because of the compounding effect. So women just need to understand that they need to be a lot more assertive about what's happening. They need to do their own budget. What are they doing with their money? It's not just about supporting the family unit, because maybe the female earns a little bit less than the husband. It's you need to think more carefully about, does your husband have life insurance if he's the breadwinner? Are you protected? Do you yourself have life insurance to give your husband some cash to look after your children? Funeral schemes, savings plans, retirement plans. It's now the time for women to start planning their own financial plans, as important as it is the husband's, but do it together with separate plans for each one of you.
Okay, so how does the conversation go, Brian? Where must one start with this conversation? Is it before you get married and you sit down with a financial planner, and then at that session you say, by the way, part of my list of expectations here is that as of today, you will start contributing to a fund that will then come and support me when I'm on maternity leave?
No, when you're on maternity leave, your savings plans mustn't stop. Your retirement plans mustn't stop. The husband must be able to keep your savings plans going. If you're a younger person, start financially planning. If you're a slightly older person, sit down with your husband and understand what the financial dynamics are of the family. Don't just let your husband or you do it on your own. That doesn't mean that you mustn't have your own plans. But if you understand, I've said that to you before, there's nothing worse when a wife loses a husband and she has to grieve and at the same time feel a bit guilty because she's thinking about money. Who's going to pay the bond? How are the children going to be educated? How am I going to live? Rather have that information in terms of what we've spoken about, your life file.
I'm looking at the faces of these young gentlemen in studio.
They're probably all going to lynch me as I leave here.
They all look like they don't agree with what is being said. No, and it's part of why I actually emphasize the point, Brian, because I want to know how many people actually do. How many people do this?
Few. The answer is few.
Yeah.
And the purpose of this program is to educate and just bring alive some new thoughts to their mind.
Yeah.
It's very, very important. A lot of pension funds today, when you're in receipt of the pension, certainly the government pension fund, in the death of the spouse, of the main member, 50% goes to the spouse. Do you know what that means? Do you know how that's going? If you're struggling to come out, when the husband goes, it doesn't automatically assume that you're going to have enough to live if your pension is reduced by 50%. Make yourself aware. Just become educated in what's happening with your family. Don't think it just happens. Don't sweep it under the carpet. It's time now. This is Women's Month. Next month is Wills Month. We've got a Wills Week. We'll be talking about that. Start doing things now.
I absolutely love the push for a mindset reframing. And like I said, some of these young men in studio, I'm sure they don't look like they're married yet. So now they know exactly what they need to do. Once they buy that engagement ring or take out those cows, it must come with a contract. Né? It must come with a contract. All right, I want to bring in some of our callers and also the voice notes that we have. The number, of course, to dial 086 000 2032 and on the WhatsApp voice note line 0614 104 107. Yeah, because the reality is women are paying unfairly. There is an unfair burden on women, which is also economic. And Brian's suggestion is really speaking to how do we begin to, the word is not equalize, but to ease things. How do we begin to support in ways that are meaningful? Is perhaps the best place to put it. Okay, I've got Pilani in Durban, Brian, who wants to know if you can share on Capital 40, the investment platform. Are you aware of it?
No, not at all. Capital 40?
Yes.
Sorry, Pilani, I can't help you.
Okay. Brian knows nothing about it, but he'll go check and see if it's something worthwhile. Let's get into some of the voice notes that are coming through. Let's maybe play from the bottom up.
Morning, Cathy. Morning to Brian. Morning to the listeners. This is Magdalene from Bloom. Brian, what is your advice or your take to a woman who is 25 years old, having 3 children? The first child she had, she was 14 years of age, and she's now depending on the SASA of the 2 children, and the 350. She doesn't work. She doesn't have a partner. She's a single parent. And she's now depressed, very much vulnerable. Can't find job. What is your advice to this woman financially? Thank you. Magdalene from Blue.
What a sad set of circumstances. I mean, the SASA grant for children, 3 children, age 25, the 350 Rand ain't going to go very far. I'm speechless. I don't even know how to comment. And by the way, you know, I've always said you can never ask a stupid question. You can only get a stupid answer. You are probably calling for many, many females who are listening to this program in a similar situation. I wish I could wave a wand and have a solution. It's really, I mean, you know, you didn't mention if this 25-year-old has got education. Has she got any skills? Can she do anything? Her big problem is, you know, she's obviously, first child was 14, so that kid is only 11. We didn't mention the ages of the other 2, so who's going to look after them if she goes to get work? But she's going to have to do something like that. She's going to have to supplement her income. Otherwise, how is she going to support the children? How is she going to educate the children? How does she deal with healthcare for her children? It's a major problem in this country. It's not only females, it's males as well in a similar situation where they can't find work. We've seen the unemployment. I had an interesting chat in Durban on Friday with a very affluent and capable gentleman who's very involved in many businesses, and he said, you know, the statistics we show for unemployment at 33 to 34%, he doesn't believe is real, because he says if you look what's going on in the townships, there is so much money being earned that's not being taxed by traders, by taxi drivers, by spa shops. There's an enormous amount of money. He was talking about, for example, Mr. Price as an example in the townships, how busy it is. But coming back to your question, I really don't have any other than finding a way for the 25-year-old to build skills so that she can get a job. Most important, out of the money from the work, she's not going to have money to save. She's going to have someone to care for the children. That's where parents can help. You know, we talk about the double income funds. We talk about the sandwich generation, where children are helping parents, adults are helping their children. Certainly, if adults can't help their children, what they can possibly do is help their children to look after their children so that the kids can go out and get work. You know, Cathy, do you have any comments?
Look, I think that the reality, Brian, is that in a situation like that, it becomes practically impossible to save, because one is looking at bread and butter issues. How do you feed at least 4 mouths on the income that we're talking about? Cumulatively, it's probably less than 1,500 on a month-to-month basis.
Yeah, it's probably around about there.
Yeah, and so it's just, we have to be honest about the situation. If somebody's thinking about, what are my children going to eat tonight? What am I going to eat tonight? Even asking them to take 30 Rand out of that is really quite
Cathy,
significant.
Is there a responsibility on mothers also to be aware that, you know, if you haven't got a job and you haven't got a partner, you know, to fall pregnant and have children is totally irresponsible? Where do you hang your hat on that comment?
Look, I think that obviously these are conversations that are very personalized and can be very subjective. The reality is that I don't think that anybody falls pregnant necessarily with the intention of raising their child alone. I think there aren't many people who intentionally set out to be the only parent for their child. And how things flow in terms of relationships between men and women often becomes what leads to single parent households. But I don't think anybody sets out to be a single mother of 3 or a single mother of 5.
Well, Cathy, there is a responsibility on the individual to say, understand where you are. I mean, many families today, I hear this all the time, you know, people are having children at an older age and they're saying, because we're not ready. I think that's a conversation one's got to have with your spouse as well. You know, it's not only about the love and having children, it's about the financial support of those children. You know, I don't need to tell you, 1 child, 2, 3 children, you know, there's an enormous amount of additional cost that comes into it. And as we were talking about this young lady of 25, her ability to leave the children and go and find work. And, you know, I mean, we had that many years ago where the domestic workers never saw their children, parents never, fathers, and the children were with grandparents. And I still think that's a lot that's happening where children are with grandparents. It's a responsibility. The same way as you are planning your financial planning, you need to also have some family planning.
Absolutely. I don't disagree with you. I also just know that when you look at the state of healthcare and access to healthcare for women, those are just some of the things that make this conversation even more complicated and complex. Because now, there's so many things that you know that we could get into, but ultimately, it is the reality of the situation that we're in. I do think education can play a big role, especially because we have women that are younger and younger, teenage girls that are falling pregnant, and the trend is that once that teenager falls pregnant, then there almost seems to be a particular trajectory that their life is going to follow, which is incredibly sad. I want to bring in more voice notes before I bring in our callers. Let's take this one.
Just a quick question. My wife pregnant with our first baby, and during paternity leave, we tried to claim money for her because she wasn't working from Department of Labor, but then they say there was no funds in. And then they say because the reason why is that she previously claimed when she didn't have work. How does this UIF thing work? Because if that is it's true, then we have a big problem when ladies going pregnant, working, and they can't claim.
Cathy, I'm not an expert on UIF, and maybe it's a subject you should deal with. Bring someone in from UIF to explain when people can claim, how you go about claiming, what are the obstacles, because I hear this very often. I've tried to get hold of UIF for the last 6 months for myself. I struggle to get through. I struggle to get answers from them. And maybe it may not be a bad idea for you to run a program at some time on UIF and be able to answer this question.
Okay. Asipe wants to know, she says, I'm 29 years, currently unemployed. I just lost my job last month and I'm hoping to get one soon. I had a retirement annuity with my previous employer. What else would you advise me to look at as a single mom in future? Asipe, a single mom in future? What does that mean? Are you planning to be a single mom, or are you looking at the statistics and thinking, well, you'll probably end up as a single mom?
Well, I'm going to assume that she's a mom with a child, because she spoke about the word single mom. I know she used the words in future. And she said she had a retirement annuity. Well, under the retirement annuity, what you need to do is you may be able to suspend payments. You need to talk to the insurance company. You may be able to make the contract paid up. You need to find out what the penalties are. What is important, if you're working for someone, you probably were maybe a member of a pension fund. Maybe there was group life cover. You need to make sure that you've got life insurance. It's not expensive at your age, just if something happens to you as the single mom, so that your child is taken care of. You need a will, absolutely a will. will with who's going to be the guardian of the child. You need a trust in that will, because if your child there's money to be paid and looked after, children under the age of 18 can't inherit. So there's got to be a will in place, and you need some life insurance. And as you say, you hope to get work sooner than later, and I wish you all the best.
All right, thanks for that. I see Asipe has just sent a WhatsApp message to say that, yes, she is a single mom. All right, Asipe, I hope that that question assisted. Let me bring in our listeners on the call line. Rich, you are in Durban. Good morning.
Good morning, Cathy and Brian.
Morning, Rich.
I'm going to talk to Brian here, Cathy. Brian, Cathy is trying to help herself here. She's trying to have her cake and eat it. Cathy is the first person that will tell you women are able to stand on their own. Women, as our Constitution rightly says, are equal members of society and so on. But now, when it comes to finance, men must look after women. Cathy?
Rich, don't take my words out of context. Absolutely, women have the right to stand up and be independent, right? And be self-sufficient. And any country and any society should build an environment that enables women to do that. So that one we must all be clear on. We must equalize the playing field for both men and women, right? Full stop.
Absolutely.
Full stop.
Absolutely.
Full stop
Absolutely.
on that issue. And now we start a new sentence, right? If we understand grammar, we know what that means. New idea, new thought. After the full sentence, after the full stop, rather, is a new sentence. So, Rich, women in the context of relationships where they are in a marriage or whatever the setup might be as agreed upon by those two individuals, means that at a time where they then decide to start a family, i.e. have children, there are economic consequences of those decisions on women. And that means that no matter how hard a woman has worked in the sentence before the full stop, those circumstances change the minute she makes that decision. And so there must be a way in which we as society support women after those changes and be fully aware of what it is that those changes mean.
Can I add something? Because you made the comments about men must look after women. Well, Cathy's explained fully, and I couldn't have explained it any better. Cathy, 100%, 101 out of 100 with your explanation. But all I'm saying this morning is that it's no point saying men must look after women, because what happens if the man dies or is not around? The woman is then left in total lack of understanding of how all the bills of life are going to be paid, how children are going to be educated, how you're going to get rid of debt. That's why when you say men must look after women, together one needs to look at a financial plan. It's not about who's looking after who. It's about putting together a financial plan so each party to the marriage, each party in the relationship understands their obligation in terms of savings plans, protection, and the same, that each one understands. But at the same time, one needs to be aware that if a woman does fall pregnant and does leave her job and looks after children, and there are breaks in her career can inhibit her terribly in getting position that maybe she left 5 or 7 years later and now coming back into the workforce. You know, I don't need to tell you, in the work today, technology is moving, AI is moving us at such a pace. Be out of the workplace for 5 years and try and catch up with what's been happening. That's all I'm making the point. Share your plans, right. Work together.
Okay. I don't want to make it a societal or a personal issue. On the financial side, I raised that point both on a lighter note and on a serious note as well. A debate.
Are you married, Rich?
Can ensue. I was.
You were? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. Now I'm looking after the children after the fact. Now, on the financial side, what I want to contribute is that when people take debt, Brian, it's very important that people look at the interest rate they are paying. Because sometimes when people take debt, They don't look at the cost. They're just looking at the fact that they're going to solve the problem with the debt. And that cost then becomes an added burden on top of the initial issue.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, Rich.
Yeah, well, that's part. That taking on debt is part of your joint budget. Can we afford to take on debt? You know, if I think about the two items that tend to be spent regularly is people tend to change their cell phone every time the 2 years is up. And once a car's been paid up, people tend to upgrade their car and start paying again. There comes to a time in life when you've got to say, I've got enough is enough. I'm going to drive a slightly older car and I'm going to use a slightly older phone and I'm not going to have to pay for the cost of the unit. So I'm just giving you two examples. But the budget is absolutely critical. I'd love to ask you a lot of other questions, but I don't think it'd be appropriate because you say you were married. Do you have children? You know, are you looking after those children? What is your wife contributing? Is your ex-wife working? Is she making plans? You know, when I think about, I think back many, many years, particularly when companies offered a pension fund and husbands they had a choice to join. Women would always go home to ask their husbands, should they join? And husbands use the excuse, I'm going home to ask my wife. And the reason they asked that, because they were never going to join. So it is an issue. All we were trying to raise this morning is some good discussion. I think, Cathy, you've really dealt with this exceptionally well. And I think on the UIF question, I really think that you guys should put together a program with someone from UIF to understand exactly how people go claiming, particularly when they lose their job and so on.
Okay, all right. Rich, thanks for that engagement, calling us from out in Durban. It's the second time I'm having to address this issue, and we're still not yet through Women's Month. So the third person who's going to come at me with this issue must expect me to be even sharper than I have been the last two times. Takin Centurion says, I wish there was a law that forces men after divorce to take care of their children financially instead of women going to and from the maintenance court to force them to do so. And we know just how difficult things can be for women in that regard. Janusz, I'm squeezing you in here. Good morning.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Cathy. Thank you, Brian. Cathy, a man will do everything possible to not pay maintenance for the children. When they divorce, they disappear. And that's a tragedy of the family. That's a tragedy of wife, of previous wife, and the children. I think that should be a law. And because men got many children around, and then they disappear. And women is stuck with this, and that's the problem. Secondly, also, don't you think, Brian, we should use more bank money to of course, if we can, to build up our future life, because there's some of the books, like Rich Men, Poor Men, they're using only the money from the bank to build up the sort of to buying things and producing things. So also for the woman can be advisable.
All right, Janusz, thanks for that. Using the bank's money, i.e. using loans?
Look, when you're using loans, understand you're paying loans somewhere back today in terms of when you talk about bond finance, somewhere between 10.5%. When you're talking about motor car finance, you're talking 11, 12%. When you're talking about credit card, you're talking 17 to 18%. Understand, using banks' money other than in property, and that's a different subject. Maybe I'll deal with a question next week on that, what I call the power of gearing a property, the dangers and the advantages of making money when you do use banks' money. But at this point in time, I don't think borrowing money to try and make investments for yourself. I'm not saying that's what businesses do. Businesses use bank money to grow their businesses.
All right. Brian, we're going to have to leave you there. Your number quickly?
011-880-488. And if you want to really get hold of me, www.bhca.co.za. Cathy, can I leave here safely with the gentleman tied up there? They don't lynch me.
No, these ones, we're going to deal with them during the news update.
They're all young men.
It's
all young
exactly.
Men.
So they should be opening their minds up to these ideas. It's time for the latest news update.
Thank you, Cathy. On the top stories, Ramaphosa signs into law regulations on donations to political parties, and Gigaba and Mchunu to face ANC's disciplinary committee. For SAFM News, I am Ondelambana, and a very good morning. President Cyril Ramaphosa has signed into law regulations doubling the upper limit of donations to political parties from 15 million to 30 million rands, and the threshold for for disclosure from 100 to 200,000 rand. The move, amending the Political Funding Act of 2021, follows the adoption of the new regulations by the National Assembly in May. The President has passed the legislation despite a pending judgment in the Western Cape High Court on the matter launched by the NGO My Vote Counts. The ANC says two of its National Executive Committee members, Malusi Gigaba and Senzo Mchunu, will face the party's disciplinary committee following their public statements. This follows Gigaba's claims that the ANC has lost its way and failed to achieve its goals.
The necessary steps must be taken to correct that kind of behavior. The two colleagues are going to be hauled before the disciplinary committee of the ANC, and we expect all our members to act and be exemplary, particularly those that are in elected positions, let alone the fact that those people would also be in the national executive of the ANC. And so we frown upon this behavior because they have the privilege of serving in the highest body of the organization. They cannot step out of that. It's totally unacceptable.
3 learners and the principal of Hoërskool Roodepoort sustained injuries following a fight with learners from Westridge High School, west of Johannesburg. The learners have been hospitalized while the principal was discharged after being treated for stab wounds sustained on the hand as she tried to diffuse tensions between the learners. Gauteng Education spokesperson Steve Mabona says 6 grade 12 boys from Westridge High School have been identified and will be served with suspension letters today, pending their appearance before a disciplinary committee.
This violence follows a fight between learners from both schools on Friday, the 15th of August 2025, which went viral on social media. Unfortunately, on Monday, the 18th of August, a group of learners from Westridge, who then allegedly went there on a planned revenge, started attacking learners at the Roodepoort and threw stones at cars. In the process, the principal of Roodepoort High was then stabbed while trying to intervene and was rushed to a medical facility. She has since been discharged.
Johannesburg Municipal Council Speaker Margaret Arnold has encouraged parents and community members to take a stand against gender-based violence by reporting all incidents to the relevant authorities. She was speaking at the funeral service of the 4-year-old child who died of her injuries after being physically and sexually assaulted, allegedly by her father. The funeral is underway at the Don Mateman Hall in Eldorado Park, Johannesburg. Arnold says it's time that community members unite and educate themselves on how to identify and respond to abuse.
Let's go to the authorities, and if the authorities don't take us serious, let us as community get together and deal with it. Do not understand GBV if you've not been through GBV. You cannot talk about something that you don't own. And some of us own it. And I agree with the ladies that was at the National Convention. We need to talk about it. We need to open up about it.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the U.S. is working with both its European allies and non-European countries to build a security guarantee for Ukraine. U.S. President Donald Trump said he was arranging talks between his Ukrainian and Russian counterparts to discuss plans to bring an end to Russia's war in Ukraine. Rubio also reflects on the White House meeting with Zelensky and European leaders during a Fox News interview.
The president suggested that Zelensky and Putin meet. So we're working on that now to try to set that up for them to meet somewhere, which again would be unprecedented. And then if that goes well, hopefully the next meeting will be a meeting between Presidents Putin, Trump, and Zelensky, where we hope to finalize a deal. We're not there yet, but that's what we're aiming towards. And that's one of the things that was discussed today, is how to get to that point. But just the fact that Putin is saying, sure, I'll meet with Zelensky, that's a big deal.
Recapping the top story, President Cyril Ramaphosa has signed into law regulations doubling the upper limit of donations to political parties from 15 million to 30 million rands and the threshold for disclosure from 100 to 200,000 rands. I'm Ondilambana for SFM News. Headlines at 11:30.
Keeping your family healthy this winter can feel like a daunting task. Try the Lung Shield range. It includes capsules to support healthy lungs and immunity, a syrup for kids that supports the immune system and promotes lung health, and an effervescent with 13 essential ingredients to optimize immune function. Put your family's health first this winter with the Lung Shield range. Available without a prescription at leading pharmacies. Lung Shield, prescribed by doctors, recommended by pharmacists.
What is Overtrail? Is it off the beaten path, over the edge of comfort, or the thrill of the road less taken? It's over every bridge, every obstacle, every trail, and over to that view that takes your breath away. Overtrail means going further, exploring deeper, surrounded by the comfort and sophistication of a luxury SUV. It's this spirit that inspired the Overtrail project. Experience Overtrail in the LX and GX range. Lexus. Experience amazing.
Spar brings you super savings. Get 120-gram Lay's potato chips, any two for 36 Rand, and 100 megs free data on Spar Mobile, or 2-liter Pepsi, Mirinda, or Mountain Dew, original only, any two for 30 Rand, and 50 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Plus, you could win your share of 6 million Rand in instant cash. Price is valid until 7 September 2025, while stocks last. T's and C's apply.
Do you know what's hiding behind the colorful packaging of unhealthy food? Big food companies target children with unhealthy packaged foods that hide high levels of sugar, salt, and fat, which could lead to heart disease, diabetes, and hypertension. But the truth is hidden from consumers. Front of package warning labels are a proven solution to help consumers make informed decisions. The government must act now. We have the right to know what's in our food. Demand front of package warning labels. Sign the petition on heala.org, HEALA.org, by the 30th of September.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 105.1 FM in Johannesburg. Let's have the conversation. WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107.
Good morning, how's Katie? It's Vusi here. This month, I'm a truck driver by profession. I was driving from Rustenburg and then I stopped on the N4 to have a pit stop, and as I do so, there were 3 gentlemen. The other one was already on the passenger side, demanding that I switch off the truck. And then they called my boss and demanded 1,500 Rand, claiming that I had passenger on my truck. And yeah, I'll be paying for that from my own salary this month. And I didn't have a passenger. I was stopping for a pit stop. Yeah.
Good day, Cathy. Just the lady who commented on the Bolt driver who was taken away by taxi operators. I want to kind of challenge SAFM team to follow up with the lady to give date, times, and details of the trip, and actually a follow up with Bolt, and for Bolt to actually advise if that driver is still okay. I bet you will get no response from Bolt. Just to give you an idea, and just to show you how Bolt has no regard for drivers at all. That's a challenge to you. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I want to give this challenge to you. Challenge Bolt, get the details of that trip, find out from Bolt to confirm if that driver is still okay. And let's see what Bolt says. Thank you. This is MG.
Cathy, good morning, and good morning to SAFM listeners. Cathy, I'm in Cape Town. I own a Avanza, but it's difficult to load your family. It's difficult to load even 3 people in the Avanza in Cape Town. They will charge you 1,500. I experienced those things. I already experiencing those things. But we spoke about this girl, Kathy. We spoke about the extortion until he get out of our hands. We speak now about this, but we spoke about this before. The taxi drivers are taking the law in their hands. Why government can't act on those people? We spoke about this. It's not new. It's Honorable Makucha Kubana, Ekapa Welkazile. Danko.
And the listeners, this country, man, if you trust police, it's a waste of time. We don't have police. These people, I know I was in Joburg for almost 10 years and played for the Banya theaters, and the police used to rate me and stop me and ask me funny questions. And I once asked them, "Where is your badge?" Only to find out they are fake police. It's Ringo from Cape Town. Thank you.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365, Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za.
This Women's Month, SAFM stands with the women shaping South Africa's future. Under the theme, Building Resilient Economies for All, we honor the pioneers, the problem solvers, and the everyday heroes driving change. Stay tuned as SAFM brings you powerful stories and meaningful conversations that move us. SAFM, celebrating women, celebrating progress. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. This Women's Month, SAFM stands with the women shaping South Africa's future. Under the theme, Building Resilient Economies for All, we honor the pioneers, the problem solvers, and the everyday heroes driving change. Stay tuned as SAFM brings you powerful stories and meaningful conversations that move us. SAFM, celebrating women, celebrating progress. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. SAFM celebrates its 89th birthday this month by giving listeners an exclusive opportunity to attend the prestigious Joy of Jazz taking place at the Sandton Convention Center from the 26th to the 28th of September 2025. To stand a chance to win these sought-after tickets, simply SMS SAFM 89 followed by your name to 41391 and stay tuned to SAFM as we could be calling you. SAFM is the official media partner for the Dipala stage at the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz. Entries open from the 7th of August and close on the 31st of August 2025. Winners will be randomly selected and called from the 1st of September 2025. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply. T's and C's apply.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
Well, let's get then into our final conversation for the morning. We're in conversation with Professor Phumela Msweli, who is the Executive Dean and CEO at the UNISA Graduate School of Business Leadership. She's recently launched a book on intra-Africa trade, and this book has brought together the thinking of African economists, trade experts, policy makers, and its aim is to offer some kind of strategic insight into how Africa can build inclusive, equitable and sustainable trade systems. Professor Msweli, good morning to you. Thank you for your time this morning on The Talking Point.
Thank you very much, Cathy, and good morning to your listeners.
Let's perhaps begin with what sparked the need, at least, from your point of view, to actually put together a book on this topic, quite topical, in fact, looking at the conversation that is happening globally around trade, but also regionally and on the continent around trade?
Well, in 2019, when countries agreed to sign the Continental Free Trade Agreement, it was a monumental achievement because now the integration of Africa was not an option anymore. 54 countries signed, and that was the first time this was done after 50 years of different treaties and different formations and different countries meeting to talk about this. But it was in the making when the African Union was reconfigured after the OAU and the Abuja Treaty, together with a number of treaties that have taken place over the 50 years. So there was a huge need then to change the way we do business, because this meant that the borders of Africa are collapsed. This meant free movement of goods and services. This meant free movement of investments. This meant that youth, small and medium enterprises could trade not just in their small markets, they have the entire market to trade with. And that required us to change the strategies of engagement, to rewrite our strategies and to sensitize entrepreneurs that carry GDPs of countries around this Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement so that it yields its desired outcomes.
In your view, why has the implementation or even the uptake around the Africa Free Trade Area been so slow? Yes, it is, from a policy point of view, something that has been endorsed by the majority of countries on the continent, but the actual implementation on how this is happening on a country-to-country level, even at a regional level, that still is needing a lot of work. We're not seeing it, take off in the way that was expected.
Well, it is because if you look at the history of this continent, how it has been broken up from over 2,000 years ago, and how also 500 years ago, not even there were transatlantic trade where people were moved, the geniuses, the strength, people that built Africa were dislocated to the Western world. If you look at what happened in 1889 during the Berlin Conference, where Africa was broken up into pieces, we now have 54, sometimes it's said 55 countries. And to undo that is a process, because so much has happened in this breaking up of one Africa. For instance, we have regional economic communities, and there's more than 8, but the African Union agreed to use the 8 regional economic communities, such as the SADC, East African Community, COMESA, ECOWAS, etc., to build from to unite Africa and to integrate Africa. Now, with different languages and different regulation systems, you now have to agree on rules of origin. How do you now say this is an African-made product and therefore it should be given preferential treatment for trading when we have been so integrated with the rest of the world? We have inputs from the West. Take the automobile sector. It has inputs from the West and it has labor from the South. And how do you make that product an African-made product? So countries had to come with their protocols for rules of origin and get those ratified. And also this Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, remember, it comes with a whole lot of guidelines and implementation plans. How do you now implement investment protocols so that investment is supporting African enterprises? How do you integrate the current trade system with the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement? And that's just even high level. How do you get people to start trading with one another? Is even a more complicated matter, because first we need to get small and medium enterprises to be export ready, to produce quality, and maybe to even simplify it further. We need to get our entrepreneurs to think about owning the means of production. Right now, we are consumers. We have to just rethink how we look at the economy, move away from being a consumer to say, I want to own the means of production of the entire value chain of amagwinya that I sell in the township. How do I partake in the different value chains of producing what I'm producing?
You know, you describe this as a often complex idea, and yet it's so simplistic in nature that we need to start trading with each other. We need to start buying and selling goods to each other. Why does it seem so hard? Because we live with each other. If you think about how migration takes place, even on a regional level, we move between countries so easily. If you go to downtown Johannesburg or maybe even downtown Pretoria, which I don't know as well as I do, the Joburg CBD, you will find goods that are clearly not produced in South Africa, that come from elsewhere, not only on the continent but on the region, and these are being traded in the city of Johannesburg. And yet, for whatever reason, it's not on a scale big enough to be consequential, it seems to me at least, in the context of this conversation. So what does that trade with each other, what does that need to look like?
Well, first, let's see how it looked like in numbers. We trade with each other out of 100% of traded goods and services in Africa. We trade only 16% or just under 16% with each other. The rest, which is 84%, we trade with the rest of the world, which means we are not empowering our own industries. We prefer to trade with the Europes, the Asias, and the Americas. But guess what? In Europe, intra-European trade is over 50%. It's actually around 60-something%. In the Americas, intra-American trade is over 50%. Intra-Asian trade is over 50%. But intra-Africa trade is 16%. And it goes to exactly what you have pointed out. We do not buy what we make. We consume things that we don't make. So it starts with consciousness. To say, let me be conscious. Let me look where this thing is made. And we are all guilty because we are chasing labels. We want a particular label. We are not thinking about the fact that that label is enriching an entrepreneur in another country. So it starts with us, the intelligentsia, us role models, us celebrities, to say, what am I wearing? Where is it made? What am I eating? Where is it made? Is this coffee made in Kenya or is it made in another country outside Africa? Where is this tea made? If we can just audit at an individual level what we are consuming on a daily basis, you'll find that we are all guilty, and it will take us leaders to be conscious of what we consume, and then take it a step further to say, I'm only going to buy my vegetables from down the road from that woman who's selling potatoes and spinach. So it really will start with a particular social consciousness to appreciate the importance of growing intra-Africa trade.
Can we talk about the role of young people in this conversation? Currently, Africa is looked to as the continent of the future, and that's largely due to the youth demographic or the youth dividend that we have collectively on the continent. And for whatever reason, we then are also sitting with this number of young people that are supposed to be building into the future that are sitting unemployed, the majority of them without work, not in training, not in skills, just literally sitting, waiting for an opportunity. How can we begin to capitalize on that across the different countries?
That's a very important question, Cathy, because there is the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement has 8 protocols. One of the protocols is on youth and gender in trade to address precisely what you've just mentioned. And again, it will start with a mindset. And I must say, there's a lot of young people. There's really a strong, I would say, a good preponderance of young people who are now starting their own enterprises. We now have to think about entrepreneurship, and there are opportunities everywhere we look. And it starts with a mindset. And it also starts with not thinking you're going to make a couple of millions and go and buy the biggest car out there within your first year of business. It starts with a mindset to say, I want to own the means of production. I want to be in charge of the capital and be disciplined. I want to be in charge of educating myself and understanding that that process takes time. That is human capital in the growth equation for development, economic development. It also takes a mindset to say, I'm going to master the technology integration of my business, because growth is about capital, technology, education, and of course, whatever mastership or discipline expertise in that area. Because this quick cash idea is a mindset, a mindset of developing something that will become a legacy project. It takes a mindset. And we know that. We have businesses that have been built by our NAFCOC forefathers that are still standing, the Maponya Mall. Because when they built that mall, they didn't think about consuming and wealth creation for today. So it's going to take the youth to rethink how to develop a business and how to grow businesses and the discipline. And I think that's what we are losing is
Okay.
2 things.
I'm going to ask you just to pause it there, Prof. We're going to continue this conversation shortly. Professor Phumela Msweli is on the line. She's the Executive Dean and CEO of the UNISA Graduate School of Business Leadership. For now, it's 11:30. Here are your headlines.
Thank you, Cathy. On the news headlines, President Cyril Ramaphosa has signed into law regulations doubling the upper limit of donations to political parties from 15 million to 30 million rands and the threshold for disclosure from 100 to 200,000 rands. Action SA leader Herman Mashaba says the tragic death of a 4-year-old child from Eldorado Park in Johannesburg is a reflection of the broader crisis facing South Africa. And more than 300 e-hailing operators are marching to the Gauteng Provincial Legislature in Johannesburg to hand over a memorandum of grievances and demands. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Cathy Mohlahlana is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio. SAFM celebrates its 89th birthday this month by giving listeners an exclusive opportunity to attend the prestigious Joy of Jazz taking place at the Sandton Convention Centre from the 26th to the 28th of September 2025. To stand a chance to win these sought-after tickets, simply SMS SAFM 89 followed by your name to 41391 and stay tuned to SAFM as we could be calling you. SAFM is the official media partner for the Dipala stage at the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz. Entries open from the 7th of August and close on the 31st of August 2025. Winners will be randomly selected and called from the 1st of September 2025. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply. T's and C's apply.
What do you believe makes progress that slow and difficult? Is it a sense of the further we move away from the lessons of Marikana, the more lax an attitude we take to the issues, the underlying socio-economic issues that it raised?
Marikana was just an eye-opener to South Africans, but because it happened to the section of the class of the workers, of which all you media people, you are labeling workers as criminals, people who are uneducated, who want 12,500 being not educated. So, but now the teachings are coming home to roost to everyone. This concomitant action is clearly on the economy now. It's no longer about Marikana massacre now. Our tolerance level as South Africans is so very high until it's becoming low. Maybe the revolution will start because we cannot continue like this.
Joseph Matundra, the AMCU president.
Tulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
You're listening to The Talking Point. Our final conversation of the day focuses on on intra-trade on the continent, which is the focus of Professor Phumela Msweli's book. She is the Executive Dean and CEO of the UNISA Graduate School of Business Leadership. Prof. Msweli, just double-checking that you're still on the line. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm still on the line, Cathy.
Wonderful. So we were talking about the youth demographic in particular, and you wanted to highlight two specific things that you think young people can be doing today.
I think young people should start their own businesses around their own areas of interest. In the book, for instance, we talk about the filmmaking industry. They love their gadgets and they can create beautiful stories around any subject. And if they are creating a story that will empower and enrich, that story can be a documentary or a film. So I invite them to read the chapter by Joy, who has written an amazing chapter that touches exactly on that subject.
Speaking of that issue, how did you go about selecting the contributors to this book?
We have an annual conference on intra-Africa trade. Our business school, which is celebrating its 60th birthday anniversary this year, has a department called Intra-Africa Trade. And on a yearly basis, we have started having international conferences on intra-Africa trade to amass a body of knowledge for our students, for our communities, and small and medium enterprises. So we normally send a call for book chapters or a call for conference contributions around these 8 protocols. And then we choose the best papers, and those best papers are selected for the manuscript. That's how we choose.
Yeah.
And I want to just mention, yeah.
Go ahead, Prof.
Yeah, so I just want to mention that this is a groundbreaking conference, the first conference. The keynote speaker was His Excellency Wamkele Mene, and we've had 3 conferences already, and this year we are going to have our 4th conference. And students and the SAFM community is now invited to apply for our programs. Applications for our programs is now open for all our programs. We teach intra-Africa trade in our postgraduate diploma, which is very exciting. Students love this new information on intra-Africa trade, because when we teach this in the postgraduate diploma, we infuse geopolitical issues that are now a key, rather a topical topic in the rest of the world. So I'm inviting your listeners to apply for our programs. We have doctorates, doctoral programs where you can specialize in intra-Africa trade. You can specialize in any other project of your choice. We have masters in business leadership. We invented MBL for South Africa. And we also have a master's in business administration, and applications are now open for all our programs.
Do you think that somebody who decides to, let's say, pursue a course on inter-Africa trade, etc., that they are going to be creating opportunities for themselves going into the future? Again, given the dynamics that are playing out regionally. So what would this person be gearing themselves up for? What opportunities would they be lining themselves up for?
You know, when we teach this program, we become very practical, sharing ideas of how people can take advantage of the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. Remember, it's about the borders that are open. If your target market was just Johannesburg, we encourage that you expand your market to take advantage of the rest of South Africa and form strengths with the value chains, integrate the value chains within Africa. Think collective, think collaboratively, so that you don't think in a silo fashion. And then through our business school, we are able to connect you with our partners across the South African borders. And that's the best way to do this, because you won't be able to knock at a door of the next door country without networking with the support that you will get from a business school such as ours.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. I want to bring in some of the contributions of our listeners. Kaz in Durban wants to know, does the cost of products lure us away from local? And I think it's alluding to what you had said earlier, Prof, around how it's easier for people to buy what they see as big brands versus then actually buying local. That's sometimes not even, that the quality is so much better than what is being produced locally, but it's the fact that it is a particular brand. So I'll give you a chance to weigh in on that. Let me also take this voice note.
Good morning, Cathy. Look, man, Cape Town. I fully agree what the professor is saying. Trading in Africa is endless opportunity. And we should do it. Should have done it a long time ago, not depending on the West. We can actually survive on its own, mostly. But for me, Cathy, is that we can have all these wonderful models and ideas and initiatives, but if you have failing African governments, failing African countries, we have old and visionless leaders that doesn't want to step down and create opportunity for younger leaders to maximize this opportunity. We're gonna talk forever. Thank you so much.
All right, Prof, do you want to respond to that?
Yes, he is absolutely right. You see, when we talk of trade, we talk of non-tariff barriers. And these non-tariff barriers include leadership, visionary leadership. You have countries that are actually doing extremely well in intra-Africa trade blocks. For instance, the East African community, which is Rwanda, Kenya, Burundi, those communities, the intra-Africa trade amongst that bloc is good because they are visionary leaders. We've often heard Kagame himself saying, we are not prepared to consume what we don't produce. So he is correct, but there are many non-tariff barriers. A lot of them are based on trade facilitation and infrastructure problems. And these are legacy issues of the colonial and the apartheid regime that only developed certain sectors of our communities. So with our great awareness of these, we want to contribute in easing out these non-tariff barriers, which include what your listener has just contributed to: leadership, trade facilitation, long queues at the border, language problem. Education is a non-tariff barrier. Fluency in trade language. We need to be teaching this trade fluency from grade naught. In Korea, in China, artificial intelligence and trade fluency is taught in grade 1. Entrepreneurship should not be something that students meet only at university and at high school. There should be entrepreneurship right at the bottom of education. Entrepreneurship is about innovation, is about creativity, discipline, knowledge, and all of those need to be compulsory in our education system. A lot of times we want to blame government. And I must say that government has done its part. They've created policies. It is us who must go to our communities.
Professor Msweli, you're still live on air? All right, not sure what has happened there, but it looks like we've lost Professor Msweli on the line. Professor Msweli, you're muted. If you can please unmute yourself. Okay, looks like we're not winning. Apologies about that. Not sure what happened there. But certainly, I think you got the gist of the argument that is being made in this book, how the Africa Continental Free Trade Area can help to unleash Africa's development potential. That book is now available and edited by Professor Phumela Msweli, who is the Executive Dean and CEO of the UNISA Graduate School of Business Leadership. Well, it seems that we've come to the end of yet another show. It's Tuesday. So we'll be back with you again tomorrow between 9 and midday. Have yourselves a lovely afternoon. And up next will be the book reading, followed by the update at noon.
With the ever-changing financial landscape, it can be difficult to make sense of all the moves at times. Join me, Jimmy Moyaha, on the SAFM Market Update with MoneyWeb, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 to 7 p.m, as we break down the key market trends, top financial stories, and smart investment insights, all in one place. It's everything you need to stay financially informed and ahead of the curve.
Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday, the 23rd of July for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows, and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers, and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 105 FM in Mokopane.
SFM's award-winning drama department presents another episode of the book, A Testament of Hope, the autobiography of Dr. Sam Motswenyane. Please note that the views expressed in this book are not that of the station. Listeners' discretion is advised. I believe that from that time when I was operating a nursery in Morocco during the mid-1960s, I had continued to attract the attention of the special branch. I was just lucky not to have been detained or even killed. I think what spared me from being locked up is that I was considered a moderate. In my approach at all times, I was trying to be reconciliatory in bringing peace to the country. I do remember, though, when NAFCOC was operating from its Soshanguve offices, how on many occasions we were visited by some very suspect white people. They would invite me to come and see institutions from which they operated, but I always declined because I did not trust them and feared that they could invite me to some place where I could have been arrested or simply vanished from. The occasional disappearance of people at that time caused everybody to be cautious when invited or visited by people they did not trust or had never seen before. Meeting with Mr. Mandela at Victor Verster Prison. Just before the 25th NAFCOC Annual Conference in 1989, Mr. Nelson Mandela invited me to join him at the Victor Verster Prison in Paarl for discussions. I was pleasantly surprised when he expressed his appreciation of the role that I had played up to that point. I had not expected him to know so much about what was happening outside of prison, but he was pretty well informed of our role politically. We spent the whole day discussing matters of importance to him. He was actually living in a house by himself and was catered for by the police. On the day of our meeting, he was dressed in a suit and looked just as charming as any other day prior to his long years of imprisonment. I was happy to find him in that state of health and mind. When I met Mr. Mandela, he was almost certain that he would eventually be released from prison, as some of his fellow comrades were already out. He was given the assurance that he would also one day be out, but he did not know the exact day when this was going to happen. At the time of our meeting, Mr. Mandela was considering how in the future the ANC should formulate policies to transform the economy and deal comprehensively with the issue of development. He indicated that he would like us to work together in formulating a new economic policy that would be realistic, achievable, and workable for the future. There was at the time an enormous amount of debate about the nationalization of the South African economy. Some of us had expressed the view that if that happened immediately, we would not know how to handle it. It was at this juncture that I expressed the view that I personally felt that it would not be in our best interest to start by nationalizing the economy. The ANC had neither the capacity nor the resources to handle a nationalized economy. I said that there ought to be a very careful study made before such an action was taken because the repercussions could be far more harmful and disadvantageous to the country and the very people whom the policies were intended to help. I told him that we looked up to him as our leader to lead and come up with realistic solutions. Our discussion covered a wide spectrum of topics. We even talked about family matters. I remember that we discussed that a new house was being built by Mrs. Winnie Mandela where he was possibly going to live when he got out of jail. That house was built by ADCC, a company of which I was the chairperson. After his release from prison, I met Mr. Mandela again when the ANC was busy negotiating for a new dispensation through CODESA. I had known Mr. Mandela before he went to jail, so it was not really meeting somebody I did not know. I was, however, surprised when he told me how he had been following what I was doing for the country through NAFCOC, and that he was quite happy with what was done so far. The Mutsonyane Commission. In 1993, after I had already retired from NAFCOC, I was persuaded by friends and more especially by my colleagues in NAFCOC to write a book on the history of the organization. I started to write the book from the Human Sciences Research Council HSRC offices in Pretoria. Barely 2 months into the project, Mr. Mandela, as president of the ANC, phoned me to say he needed me for a short while. I promptly stopped what I was doing and went to see him. He told me that he was under pressure to give an account to the parents of those children who had not come back from exile. The ANC had to produce a report on what had happened to its cadres in the camps while in exile. He asked me to lead a commission of inquiry into the human rights abuses in the ANC camps in exile. He indicated to me that the task would take not more than 3 weeks to complete, and on that understanding, I readily agreed to chair the proposed commission of inquiry. Having agreed to lead the commission, I had to make arrangements to meet other commissioners, namely Judge Margaret Burnham from the United States and Advocate David Samchia from Zimbabwe. Firstly, we had to prepare the terms of reference, a task in which we were joined by Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, then the Secretary General of the ANC. Thereafter, we worked on the schedule of work to be done. This included places that were to be visited for the purpose of conducting in-loco inspections. Furthermore, special arrangements were made to hold public hearings at which certain individuals who were in the leadership would be called to give evidence. This included top ANC officials such as Jacob Zuma, Paulo Jordan, Ron Casrels, Zola Skweyiya, the late Mzwai Piliso, Alfred Nzo, and James Stewart. These ANC officials who had been in exile were summoned to testify before the commission and to provide information as to what happened and how it happened. After 8 months, the commission completed its work and presented a report to Mr. Mandela. The report was subsequently publicized. Its contents formed part of the evidence presented by the ANC to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. The report sparked a need to conduct a deeper and broader investigation in South Africa involving the government and other political parties. The ANC leaders felt strongly that having exposed what the organization had done over the years, good and bad, other parties also needed to do the same. It was accordingly decided that a Truth and Reconciliation Commission should be constituted to cover the whole country. The Mutsonyane Commission could therefore be regarded as precursor to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Parliamentary role as leader of the House Senate. When the ANC asked me to head a commission of inquiry into the behavior of its cadres in the camps outside the country, I felt greatly honored. There was therefore a level of understanding already cultivated between myself and the ANC. I had also had links with Comrade Tambo and the ANC in exile. All of that contributed towards the confidence that the organization had in me. When I was deployed by the Northwest Provincial Government after the 1994 elections to go to Cape Town, I was pleased to do so, not at all aware that when I got there, I would be asked to serve as leader of the House in the Senate. In this role, I had to work very closely with the Senate President, the late Mr. Kobi Kutsie, his Vice President, the late Mr. Govan Mbeki, and the Chief Whip of the party in the Senate, Mr. Bulelani Nguga. The leader of the House assumes a leadership role in all the debates that take place in the Senate and leads the party in presenting points of view across the floor. I fulfilled this role for 2 years. As leader of the House, I was also charged with a great deal of responsibility outside the Senate itself. I was a member of various committees of Parliament. I was a member of the Audit Committee of Parliament, the main responsibility of which was to look into all the expenses incurred by Parliament to determine whether they were legitimate or not. This was quite an important assignment. I also served on the parliamentary committees on commerce and industry. Having traveled extensively around the world, I also found myself on the Foreign Affairs Committee. Another committee that was created by the Senate, where I played a major role as chairman, was the Committee on Relations with the Provinces. We believed at that time that it was important for the Senate to gather as much information from the provinces as possible so that decisions on provincial issues became more relevant. This necessitated the creation of a committee that was to visit the provinces regularly and have discussions with ordinary people at grassroots level as well as with various provincial leaders.
That was another episode of the book, A Testament of Hope, the autobiography of Dr. Sam Motswenyane. The book is available online on www.kmmr.co.za, KMMR Publishers, and in all leading bookstores countrywide. It is broadcast on SAFM at 11:45 Monday to Thursday on The Talking Point. It is produced for the station by Vovi Patala, read by Samson Kumalo. Technical production, Wiseman Mangele, Nanda Koza, and Tato Mapuruma.
Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday, the 23rd of July for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows, and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers, and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC. This Women's Month, SAFM stands with the women shaping South Africa's future. Under the theme, Building Resilient Economies for All. We honor the pioneers, the problem solvers, and the everyday heroes driving change. Stay tuned as SAFM brings you powerful stories and meaningful conversations that move us. SAFM, celebrating women, celebrating progress. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 104.6 FM in Kimberley.
It's 12 o'clock, Tuesday, the 19th of August, 2025. This is a very warm welcome to Update at Noon here on SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. My name is Bongi Wazwane, standing in for Sakina Kamwendo, coming up this hour.
She was suffering, and our prayers was, Mikey, release your cunt. Mikey, set her free, because we don't know what she's going through right there.
A 4-year-old girl from Eldorado Park in Johannesburg who died after being physically and sexually assaulted allegedly by her father is being laid to rest today. Limpopo Premier has dismissed allegations of nepotism and signing off on millions in payment at the Mohlahlana local municipality. We speak to the mayor. And coming up with sport, John is here.
Keshav Maharaj dominates Australia as the Proteas set a batting record, and I'll bring you some football news as well.
You can share your views with us on 41391. SMS charged at R1.50. Call us on 086 0002032. Send us your WhatsApp voice notes on 082 692 3909. Post your comments on X or Facebook at SABC News_radio. You can also, of course, reach us using the hashtag update at noon. These and more coming up in the next hour, of course. But first, the latest news on Delambana is on standby.
Thank you, Bongi. On the top stories, Ramaphosa signs into law regulations on donations to political parties, and Trump pushes for meeting between Putin and Zelensky. For SAFM News, I am Onda Lambana, and a very good day. President Cyril Ramaphosa has signed into law regulations doubling the upper limit of donations to political parties from 15 million rand to 30 million, and the threshold for disclosure from 100 to 200,000 rands. The move, amending the Political Funding Act of 2021, follows the adoption of the new regulations by the National Assembly in May. The President has passed the legislation despite a pending judgment in the Western Cape High Court on the matter, launched by NGO My Vote Counts. MVC seeks to have the upper limit of donations significantly lowered from 15 million rands and all private donations disclosed regardless of the amount. The ANC says two of its National Executive Committee members, Malusi Gigaba and Senzo Mchunu, will face the party's disciplinary committee following their public statements. This follows Gigaba's claims that the ANC has lost its way and failed to achieve its goals. Meanwhile, Mchunu warned that the party is on the verge of collapse. ANC national spokesperson Mahlengu Bengu Mutsiri says the party condemns such behavior and disciplinary action is inevitable.
The necessary steps must be taken to correct that kind of behavior. The two colleagues are going to be hauled before the disciplinary committee of the ANC, and we expect all our members to act and be exemplary, particularly those that are in elected positions, let alone the fact that those people would also be in the national executive of the ANC. And so we frown upon this behavior because they have the privilege of serving in the highest body of the organization. They cannot step out of that. It's totally unacceptable.
Action SA leader Herman Mashaba says the tragic death of a 4-year-old child from Eldorado Park in Johannesburg is a reflection of the broader crisis facing South Africa. Mashaba was speaking at the 4-year-old girl's funeral service today. The child's parents appeared in the Protea Magistrates Court in Soweto yesterday, facing multiple charges, including murder. Mashaba has lamented what he called the lack of leadership in the country.
We're reaching a stage where we're using young ones, where the lives of young people are cut short because of the dysfunctional state of our country. We live in a country where we lack leadership, we lack ethical leadership that can show us the way and the right way. We've opened our borders for international drug syndicates to come and destroy our way of life.
More than 300 e-hailing operators are marching to the Gauteng Provincial Legislature in Johannesburg to hand over a memorandum of grievances and demands. The group will then move to the Provincial Department of Transport to hand over another memorandum in which they complain about impounding of vehicles and the challenge relating to the issuing of operating licenses. The march comes amid tensions between taxi operators and e-hailing drivers, which saw an e-hailing driver killed and 2 e-hailing vehicles burnt outside Baponya Mall last week. Secretary General of E-Hailing Partners Council, Meli Temba Munguni.
We lodged a complaint early this year on the 11th of February to the legislature, which was received and acknowledged. We were told that we'll get feedback. We never got anything. Eventually, 2 months later, we phoned the chairperson of the Transport and Logistics Committee, who said he does not know about the complaint. And then he said, look, I'm going to look into the complaint, then I'll come back to you. And after that, the chairperson never came back to us.
U.S. President Donald Trump has reiterated that he held positive talks aimed at ending the war in Ukraine with key European leaders and Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky. Trump said he spoke to Russia's Vladimir Putin to begin arrangements for a meeting between the Russian and Ukrainian leaders. The BBC's Arunade Mukherjee reports.
Donald Trump said after the bilateral meeting there would be a trilateral involving Presidents Putin and Zelensky and himself. But there has been no timeline given for when or if it will happen. The talks at the White House largely centered on what security guarantees Ukraine would be given. The U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that they were working with European allies and non-European countries to build a security guarantee for Ukraine, which he said would make them feel safe moving forward. It is unclear how long it will take for leaders to navigate this complex path to peace, even as fighting continues on the ground.
Recapping the top story, President Cyril Ramaphosa has signed into law regulations doubling the upper limit of donations to political parties from 15 million to 30 million rands and the threshold for disclosure from 1 to 200,000 rands. I'm Mondela Mbana for SFM News Headlines at 12:30.
Update at noon, midday to 1 p.m.
Thank you very much, Ondela. Back with the news headlines at the bottom of the hour. Lots to talk about this morning. The heartbreaking story of that 4-year-old girl from Eldorado Park in Johannesburg who died after being physically and sexually assaulted, allegedly by her father, is being laid to rest today. And remember, at the same time, right, on that story, her father is facing multiple charges. These include murder, rape, assault and child abuse, while her mother, who initially opened a case, now also faces charges of murder and failing to report sexual offences against her child. And both parents have appeared at the Protea Magistrates Court this week. That was yesterday. And also another story is looking at the developments in Mohlahlana, that is Mohlahlana local municipality in Limpopo. The Premier, Dr. Poppy Ramathuba, has dismissed the allegations of nepotism and signing off on millions in payments at the Mohlahlana local municipality, and also the allegations that have also circulated on social media right since the beginning of this month have also, claimed that the mayor, the municipal manager, in fact, Morris Montego Maluleka, was the one that was making some of these allegations, and he, also according to this account, saying that, if anything should happen to him, the premier should be the one who should be held to account. And then at the same time, we do have the magistrates who have had issues over time now, and these are magistrates who would either be complaining about safety issues, also pay issues, and every other, issue as far as the Labour Relations Act is concerned. Now they in fact are taking their fight to the judiciary. Interesting. They want the president to increase their salaries by 34%, and they then now saying that they want the president to get involved in their issue. And remember, magistrates have been crying about salaries for quite some time now, so it's going to be an interesting one, because this puts the president in a very difficult position, given the fact that judicial independence is something that is seen as sacred in the country. So how then do the courts deal with this particular matter is also going to be interesting. And finally, then there's also the issue of the DRC. And remember, there, fighting had ensued again, but you have the M23 rebels who have also intensified their fight. But at the same time, there was, of course, that peace deal that was expected to be signed by the government of the DRC and the M23 rebels, but now they failed to adhere to that deadline of reaching that peace agreement in Doha. So what happens now, because tensions are still heightened, and now there needed to be this full implementation of the signed declaration. Some sticking points there include the release of the prisoners. So how is it all going to be dealt with is quite an interesting one. So these are some of the stories that we'll cover for you.
Keeping your family healthy this winter can feel like a daunting task. Try the Lung Shield range. It includes capsules to support healthy lungs and immunity, a syrup for kids that supports the immune system and promotes lung health, and an effervescent with 13 essential ingredients to optimize immune function. Put your family's health first this winter with the Lung Shield range. Available without a prescription at leading pharmacies. Lung Shield, prescribed by doctors, recommended by pharmacists.
SA Sport Awards reflect our collective nation-building spirit. Mzansi's sport heroes and heroines have shown resilience, persistence, passion, discipline, and world-class achievements in the sports fraternity. Let us celebrate #Izinja Zegame. Catch the 18th Annual SA Sport Awards on Sunday, 24 August at 7:30 p.m. on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4, then on SABC 1 at 8 p.m. Brought to you by the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture in partnership with SASCOG and SABC Sport. Celebrating sporting excellence.
What is Overtrail? Is it off the beaten path, over the edge of comfort, or the thrill of the road less taken? It's over every bridge, every obstacle, every trail, and over to that view that takes your breath away. Overtrail means going further, exploring deeper, surrounded by the comfort and sophistication of a luxury SUV. It's this spirit that inspired the Overtrail project. Experience Overtrail in the LX and GX range. Lexus, experience amazing.
Bongiwe Zwane on SAFM.
All right, let's then go to this now. Santaco in Gauteng has distanced itself from both the fatal attacks on e-hailing drivers at Maponya Mall in Soweto and the forceful and illegal removal of family members traveling together in their own vehicles. Santaco has been addressing the media following the horrific killing of an e-hailing driver, Mthokozisi Mvelase, who was shot and set alight in his vehicle on Wednesday, allegedly by disgruntled taxi operators. Santaco has strongly condemned the incident and called on law enforcement to act swiftly in apprehending those responsible for this violent act. Chairperson of Santaco in Gauteng, Midday Mali, has asked for the industry to be forgiven in this regard.
The province has not been idle. We have taken a deliberate steps to address the conduct of few who tarnish the reputation of the industry. This journey has not been without difficulty, tragically, and some have even lost their lives in the process. At some times, our fear or political caution, our associations have hesitated to take hold disciplinary steps that must end with immediate effect. Let me also address the growing concern. The reports that some of our patrollers and the marshals are coercing citizens not to use private cars, not to transport their own families, but to use taxis by force. This is unacceptable, unconstitutional, illegal. As Santaco, and especially Santaco Gauteng, we distance ourselves fully from practices, and we are currently reviewing all such report cases, identify those possible. To every South African who has been harassed, threatened, and intimidated by someone claiming to act in the name of Santaco Gauteng, I say, you have every right to transport of your choice, who work with us, and report criminality to the authorities. We understand the responsibility we have as well. I think that is very much important. People, they would say Santaco is not responsible. And we understand our responsibility as a sector, that we need to give service and protect the communities in our space. Work with us, I want to repeat, work with us to report this criminality to the authorities. We understand the responsibility we have as well to rebuild trust with you, guarantee your safety and work restoring trust between ourselves and you. We are not all criminals. We are not all violent. The vast majority of our drivers wake up 3 a.m. in the morning to serve our people with dignity and respect. We ask for your partnership, your vigilance, your forgiveness. Definitely this one, we need to be forgiven as an industry, because this at this stage is still the allegations. then the law enforcement has to do a thorough investigation and come up with a report, not to excuse wrongdoing, but to build a sector that is transparent, safe, and responsive.
That was Santako chairperson in Gauteng, Midday Mali. Let's now stay with the story, right, and speak to Terence Manasseh, spokesperson for the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development, Mameloko Kubai. Terence, good day, and thank you so much for your time. And I remember last week when this happened, the Minister expressing her concern, even saying that as a daughter of Soweto herself, she stands with community leaders in condemning this particular act. So one wonders, a couple of days have passed and we've just heard from the taxi industry apologizing to the residents, but also saying that while this matter is still being investigated, lawlessness is not going to be tolerated. Let's first perhaps start there.
And good afternoon to you and your listeners. And I was not aware that the industry has apologized. And if that's the case, we really appreciate their message to the community, that the apology message. Well, when the incident happened, the minister, you would know, Sis Bongi, that she's not just the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development, she's a co-chairperson of the JCPS cluster, and she felt important that she should send that message to the people who are. You remember how we characterized it? We said there is a misunderstanding between the traditional taxi industry and the e-hailing industry. So she felt it necessary to send a message to the people who are having this misunderstanding that what happened is not a right thing to do. It's against the constitution, constitutional rights of many people in South Africa. Those who are conducting the e-hailing business, the people whose life were at risk around the Maponya Mall, you know, their safety rights were infringed upon. So she felt it necessary that she should send that kind of that message.
And I suppose it also speaks to the residents of Soweto who remain skeptical and very angry when it comes to the taxi industry. But at the same time, with some who are saying that you do need to coexist in order to not violate the rights of the commuters, because they've got the right to choose which mode of transport they use.
Yes, it's not only residents of Soweto. The message goes across the entire country. Everyone in the country, the minister is saying, their safety is guaranteed by the constitution. The incident happened in Soweto. Yes, it enjoyed media publicity, but the minister is saying wherever these kinds of incidences are happening, they need to stop, because people need to enjoy their safety as guaranteed by the constitution.
And Terence, then I suppose one of the calls would be for the police to leave no stone unturned in investigating this particular matter, because there is a family in KwaZulu-Natal that's still waiting for answers.
Definitely. The minister calls for calm, number one, in matters such as these, and allow the law enforcement agencies to do their work. The minister is prepared to join or advise any law enforcement entity on how to handle this matter. We understand that the matter is being investigated at the moment, and she has confidence in her colleagues in cabinet and all other levels of governance where they are handling this matter to deal with it. And we want to see justice happening. And importantly, the minister wants to see this challenge addressed in totality. And having longer solutions to it.
Quick one before I let you go. The magistrates are up in arms, and they now even threatening to take the president to court because they want a 34% salary increase. What is the reaction and the posture of the minister when it comes to this issue?
The minister indicated that this matter falls within the presidency. We are certain that the presidency is handling this matter, and we wouldn't want to comment further on this matter.
All right, Terence, appreciate your time. Thank you so much for speaking to us. That was the spokesperson to the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development, Mamoloko Kobai.
Bafana Bafana will host Nigeria in a FIFA 2026 World Cup qualifier at the Toyota Stadium on Tuesday, 9 September at 6 p.m. Tickets are now available nationwide and online from 70 Rand for adults and 40 Rand for children at all Ticket Pro outlets, including Spar, Postnet, and all petrol stations. Get your tickets early to avoid disappointment. Come in Bafana Bafana supporter gear, ready to sing for a win. Gates will open at 3 p.m. If you are not in Bloemfontein, catch the game on SABC2. For more information, visit safa.net and at Bafana Bafana on all social media channels.
Do you know what's hiding behind the colorful packaging of unhealthy food? Big food companies target children with unhealthy packaged foods that hide high levels of sugar, salt, and fat, which could lead to heart disease, diabetes, and hypertension. But the truth is hidden from consumers. Front of package warning labels are a proven solution to help consumers make informed decisions. The government must act now. We have the right to know what's in our food. Demand front of package warning labels. Sign the petition on heala.org, HEALA.org, by the 30th of September.
Hey SA, entries for FlySafe's Business Booster are closing soon. So if you're a small local business that needs help taking off, enter at flysafe.co.za, tell us about your business, and you could be one of 6 standout enterprises to win 10 return business class flights plus brand exposure across our various platforms. Whether you're mixing, matching, crafting, or inventing, we want to help your business skyrocket. FlySafe, for the love of fly. T's and C's apply.
Bongiwe Zwane on SAFM.
Now, the community of El Dorado Park in the south of Johannesburg has gathered at the Don Maitman Hall to lay to rest a 4-year-old girl who died after being assaulted allegedly by her father. Now, the community says the child's death has left a deep void in their hearts, especially of those who knew and loved this little girl. Speaking to mourners, the child's nanny, Kate Lee, pleaded with the community to stop crucifying the mother of the child, adding that she was also a victim at the hands of the child's father.
She was a very bad victim. And she couldn't talk. She was terrorized by that evil man. Her body was bruised, guys, through an evil man. This is why I said every day, don't fight against anybody. Fight against the drug dealers. Fight against them. Let's all make sure we go to all drug dealers' houses. Let's break it down. We've got power because SEPs must turn to us today. SEPs must stop failing us. Let's all go. We've got the government on our side now. You know what? Little Nikita brought the whole world together. Little Nikita made people talk to each other that never spoken to each other in years. This child brought light to the world. To look into that, it's what we have to live for. And you know what? I thank God. He gave me the power. You know, I was sitting and crying. I told the little girl next to me, I can't do this. And I just said a small prayer. I said, Lord, by your power, Lord, I'm going to make it there. And I thank God, everything that was buckled up in me, since the incident, I brought it out today for the world to hear that Mikey is not an evil woman. She's a very nice woman.
That was Kate Lee there, a member of the community in El Dorado Park, but also the nanny to 4-year-old Nikita. Let's now speak to Lerato Makola, a CBC reporter who's been watching the story for us. Lerato, definitely by no means, a funeral that one would not have expected to be this emotionally charged. Definitely emotions running high there, mourners angry at the passing of this little girl.
Good day, Bongiwe and the listeners at home.
Well, as you've mentioned that the little girl is being laid to rest today, and what I can tell you is that in the morning when we arrived, when the remains of the little girl arrived, rather at the hall, the family asked for privacy, 30 minutes, so that they can be with the deceased. And I could see that the family members are devastated. And as you've mentioned, that the one of the community members who used to take care of the 4-year-old child urged the members of the community and the law enforcement officials to be lenient on the mother. Her name is Kate Lee. She expressed deepest concerns over the blame and judgment that the public judgment that the mother has been receiving from the public. And today, the community members came out in their numbers, both young and old. They came out in their numbers to support, bid their farewell to the little girl. And we also saw the 2-year-old brother. And we've been asked not to take pictures of him or to mention his name. And when the program started, El Dorado Park Ward Councillor expressed the profound sorrows felt by the community members over the death of the 4-year-old child, describing it as a heartbreaking loss that has left a void in the hearts of those those that knew her. And she says that the incident has left the community members with a lot of questions. And she said that today is not an easy day for them as community members. They will stand together with the family. And I should mention that both her parents, their case have been postponed to the 9th of October for further investigations. And you'd remember that yesterday when they appeared in court, a murder charge was added against the mother. And we know that the mother is now facing 2 charges and the father is facing 5 charges.
Thank you very much, Lerato Makola there, reporting live from El Dorado Park, where the 4-year-old girl, Nikita, is going to be laid to rest. In fact, we saw the cortege leaving that hall a short while ago, just, of course, as mourners there, really gathering to just pay their respects to this little girl who died in such a horrific way. Now, we stay with the developments around children and go to the story. Murdered 6-year-old Amantle Samane's mother, Ntomzodwa, has expressed her sorrow since the death of her child. Now, the mother has taken the stand in the High Court in Johannesburg about the pain and the trauma she said she suffered following the rape and the murder of her daughter. So let's now speak to our reporter Pearl Makubane, who is on standby for us. Pearl, thank you so much for your time. Definitely a very difficult day for a mother on the stand who has to now relive what happened to her child.
Good afternoon, Bongi, and to the listeners. Yes, it's been a very emotional morning, as today she was meant to have been preparing or celebrating Amantle's 7th birthday, because today it is her birthday. However, instead she's on the stand. She had to take the stand and relive events that transpired on the 21st of October last year. And not only that, the days that led, or weeks, months, that she has to live with the grief and pain, and not just her, but her entire family. She took the stand. She very brave, because last week she was very emotional, but today she managed to get through the testimony of her detailing all the pain she has suffered throughout the months and what this horrific crime has done to her.
And when you listen to some of what she said, right, what else has she said, particularly when it comes to the kind of sentence she hopes will be meted out to the accused?
Well, she feels that, the perpetrator deserves 3 life terms. However, in her victim statement that was also read out in court, she spoke to the fact that she wishes South Africa was like Botswana, where a person who kills is also killed, and a death sentence would have been fitting. However, on the stand, she mentioned that she would like the state to impose, or the court to impose, 3 life terms for this heinous crime.
And what's expected then to happen after this?
Well, at the moment, the judge is yet to make his decision on the appropriate sentence, but we've had the defense and the state with regards to how he was arrested. The accused claims that he's the one that informed a man in Jabulani to call the police and tell them where he was. However, the state denies that, saying that the police had to investigate and look for him, where they found him in a different address 2 days after the murder, disputing the fact that he has handed himself over. So the judge feels that this is an important aspect as to, before he can hand out the sentence, that did he hand himself over? Was he remorseful as he claims he was? Or did the police have to go out? So we are waiting to hear from the investigating officer before sentence can be handed down.
Pearl, appreciate your time. Thank you so much for talking to us. That was our reporter, Pearl Makubane, watching the case there of murdered 6-year-old Amantle Samane. It's 12:30 and it's time now for the news headlines. Ondela is on standby.
Thank you, Bongi. On the news headlines, a special seating of the Musina municipality in Limpopo has suspended the municipal manager Nathaniel Chiwanambi for alleged financial misconduct. President Cyril Ramaphosa has signed into law regulations doubling the upper limit of donations to political parties from 15 million to 30 million rands and the threshold for disclosure from 100 to 200,000 rands. And murdered 6-year-old Amantle Samane's mother, Ndombi Zodwa, has testified in the High Court in Johannesburg about the pain and trauma she suffered following the rape and murder of her daughter. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Now, the rand is trading at 17 rand 62 cents to the dollar, 23 rand 80 to the pound sterling, and 20 rand 57 to the euro. The euro is trading at $1.16, and the dollar is at 147 yen 69. In Brazil, $1 is trading at 5 real 43. In Russia, at 80 rubles 30. In India, at 86 rupees 97. And in China, a dollar is changing hands at 7 yuan 17. Markets in Asia were mixed at the closing bell. Japan's Nikkei shed 0.4%, with Hong Kong's Hang Seng losing 0.2%. China's Shanghai index ended flat. India's markets are slightly higher at the close of trade. The JSE is mixed at midday. The all-share index is 0.3% firmer at 101,440. The industrial 25 index is 0.4% higher. Financials has added 0.3%. Top 10 resources index are flat, and the precious metals and mining index has dropped 0.1%. On the capital market, the yield on the R186 government bond is 7.6%.